All right, sweet. So we'll get moving here. Welcome back to the Blood Prison Shakedown. My name is Vic. Today we're going to welcome in two people I've been trying to get in for a while. Very busy because their haunted attraction is off the hook. Please welcome in Nick and Jess. Francis, guys, how you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Did you guys find the place all right?
Oh, yeah.
Hard to miss.
Absolutely. So let's get right into it. I've been dying to get you guys in here. Fear Columbus is, let's be real. You guys, since you guys got a hold of it, it's really kind of taken off. It's kind of went to a new level, it seems like. I haven't been down for a while since Christmas, but when we were there, it was mind-blowing. It was a good time. So let's start with you, Nick. How did you get into haunted attractions? I mean, where's that come from? I ask that to most all the guests, and it's always a good, interesting story.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a story. So I think as early as when I was 5 years old, I started doing haunted house stuff. So I would decorate a different room of my parents' house, and that would be like a little haunted house walkthrough. I think one of the first ones was just through their front living room. And so it was a long straight shot, and I would decorate it all up and then have them and three other friends walk through, and that was it. And then we'd have a little Halloween party for the kids at school. There'd be more customers, quote unquote. And then it was fun to see some people get scared and others not. And it kind of turned into a challenge for me where I was like, okay, this is actually hard to get, young kids to be afraid of something and entertain them. So that little challenge became a bigger challenge every year as the kids got older and more, kind of little punk kids that weren't afraid of anything. So we did it in the garage, made this whole elaborate thing. And then it got bigger and bigger to the last year that we were at my parents' house. It was my cousin Max and we built this full haunted house structure in their backyard that was 3,000, 4,000 square feet, actual wall panels and everything.
Nice.
Pretty ridiculous. And then from there we went into a commercial setting and did some charity haunts for a little bit to kind of just have fun and do it, and then realized we got to pay bills, and every year there was a different story that could go on forever, but that was kind of it, starting in the parents' house. And as far as what got me into it was just kind of a weird, I don't know, interest in it forever. Every little piece of horror and haunted houses was fun for me, so it was, I don't know.
Now, did you go to a lot growing up?
I probably was running them before I was even old enough to go to them.
That's crazy.
And yeah, there were some where they wouldn't let me go because I wasn't old enough, and then I'm but here's the one that I'm making. Or yes, or I wasn't old enough to drive to go to them, so as many as my parents would take me to, but yeah.
Right. All right. Now, what about you, Jess? Where does your Halloween intrigue come from?
So, way different story. I was all pink, frou-frou, girly girl growing up. Horror movies, didn't like them. Hated them. When my friend turned 13, she had her birthday party at a haunted house, and I was too scared to go through. So I just hung out outside and avoided, getting chased by the chainsaw guy. Not into it. When I was a senior in high school, my friends dragged me through a haunted house. At that point, I was freshly 18, so I was I gotta, put on the tough guy persona. Made it through. Barely looked up the whole time, but I did, make it through. It happened to be his haunted house that they dragged me through, so, kind of worked out. I left that night after going through and was you know what, that wasn't bad. I was a theater kid, so I was that caught my intrigue of hey, maybe I could act in this. I was heavily in my scene kid era at this point, so
right on.
I was the best of both worlds. So I actually ended up, I think, writing a review on his Facebook page, for the Fear Experience, and he liked it. I was who is this random person liking my review? Turned out to be, obviously, Nick. So I ended up reaching out, and I was hey, we had a great time. I would love to come act at some point. He said, whenever you want, and I was great. And then I think I also was like, can my boyfriend come too? And Nick was like, sure, like, okay. So I ended up working, I think it was like only 2 nights, and this was back in like 2011, I think. And then the following year, 2012, I was going to college full time. I was going to beauty school full time. So I kind of needed a weekend gig, and the haunted house seemed like, you know, a good way to do that. And then ended up falling in love with it, just worked there the whole season, couldn't get enough. I was like, this is awesome. Ended up falling in love with somebody else at the haunted house. So that that it all worked out, very full circle.
Yeah.
Max. But no, like it was just kind of this awesome like collision of worlds. I finished beauty school. I got my cosmetology license. But obviously being with Nick, I got to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. He was very cool. Right. He let his girlfriend, you know, tag along to everything. Anytime I wanted to learn something or, you know, get involved, everybody at the Fear Experience was more than willing to help out. And that's kind of where my love of this started to grow. And now this is me, and I'm definitely not into pink anymore, and definitely into scary movies. So, yeah.
Well, you know, it's got to come from somewhere, I think. And a lot of people that I ask that question have very similar answers. Well, I started in the backyard or in my garage. I'm like, God, what the hell was I doing? You know, because I sit there and start thinking about it. It's like, I never did that. I just I would go to haunt mazes or, you know, corn mazes, sure, stuff like that. And it was just a lot of fun, you know, and I would have it never popped in my head until down the road to like do something like that. So that's great. It's just funny there's a lot of common threads, and it's always like, well, I started in the garage.
Yeah.
You know. How did that work out then for you, transitioning from that, giving you that probably experience to then opening up like the Fear Experience, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, it was the first commercial one was in Toledo, Ohio. It was actually called Hell's Gate Haunted House. Mm-hmm. And I mean, granted, this is, I don't know how many years ago. Every time I'd like do an interview or something, I always realize that it's way longer ago than I thought. But
I hate that.
Yeah, it's like I'm starting to get kind of old. Yeah. And everybody's like, "You're not old." I'm like, "All right, well, it feels like it." Yeah. But anyway, that was Hell's Gate. At the time, I was like, "Who the hell owns HellsGate.com? And like, why is this so hard to get?" Fast forward like 12 years, and it ends up being the Flamboys that like their Hell's Gate, which they were planning apparently this whole time, and I'm just like, this is just my little charity haunt. Why can't I get this thing? I wonder who owns it. So it was kind of a fun thing one day to be like, you are the one I was trying to buy this from. So we went into that, and it was built the same way. It was with panels. It was with wall panels. It was all constructed the same way. We tried to add more stuff and make it a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger with time. But it was kind of like, I learned a lot in high school. I went to like an engineering high school, so I learned a ton about that.
Okay.
My dad and Max's dad were both like entrepreneurs, so they helped us like tons with all the business, and stuff. And then all the stuff that we didn't know, we were just trying to find people that did. And, one of the things I think that we were never great at was like set design and like the artsy stuff. We had like a good eye for what we wanted, but we never knew how to do any of it, and so we would find like those people to help supplement what we were missing. So but yeah, it was just gradually over time building those skills was a heck of a lot easier than like jumping in and like all in 1 year, like you got to figure it all out. So it was huge help.
I get that for sure. Now I didn't get to go, and to this day just kills me because I heard nothing but great about the Fear Experience. The shop I used to work at, we would do like movie nights, stuff like that, or movie days. It was actually kind of fun because Bob would come in and go, hey, we're going to the movies today. We're going to go see whatever big movie was coming out. And we're just like, all right, sweet. So we'd go to lunch and then go to a movie. Well, they started doing that with haunts. And the two that they went to, I was something else was going on. I couldn't be there. And one was the Fear Experience. And everybody came back just like totally jazzed, and they were just like, man, that was awesome. And I was like, what'd you guys do? And they went to Fear Experience. I'm like, and I love the name.
Yeah.
The Fear Experience. I'm like, that just, that says it.
Yeah.
So it was very disappointing when I found out that you guys were, closing down.
Yeah.
So what happened? How long did the Fear Experience run?
I I don't know what year offhand, but I know the last year was 2015.
Yeah.
You came to Cleveland in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was maybe 1 year as the previous name, and then like of Hell's Gate, and then it was straight into the Fear Experience. And for the first 3-4 years, it was just a different little vacant building that we could find, and then we'd store everything in some storage unit, a little warehouse thing that we would get a friend of a friend to help give us a good deal on it. Like there was no money being made at all. At all. And just begging our parents to like help front some so we could like just get the doors open. It was crazy, but a ton of fun, and I don't know why they put up with our shit for those many years, but I'm very glad that they did.
Yeah.
So when we did that, when the final year, it was just a year-to-year lease. We finally got away from like a month or two lease where we would like go and set it up, and then the big thing was that we at least got to keep everything for a year, and which was good at the time. And then we really built that thing into something great, and then at some point we kind of just forgot that this is gonna go away at any point in time. And then the building sold, so that was pretty much it. So it sold, and they
still that had to have been a little heart-wrenching. God damn it. Because you
guys
made it, and you made it into something that was, really getting some traction, and people were talking about it, and it was just the imagery and everything that I saw. I'm like, this looks great, you know what I mean? And when our crew went up, they loved it. So even Bob, he was just like so thrilled about it. He's like, oh, one of those big crocodile things. He just loved everything up there. So then it closed because they sold the building. Now, did you like, well, that's it? Or did you have a plan? Did you try to get another place?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, we had looked very aggressively for like a few years. And I wouldn't say we stopped ever looking. But at some point, Jess and I said, like, it wasn't that long, but like a few years, we're like, okay, we need to kind of move on with like life at least. And this is never something where we're going to stop looking, but we don't, like, if we're not stuck in Cleveland for any reason, like, let's go where we like, because I went to school at Ohio State I dropped out, but went there for a few years. And Jess and I spent a lot of time down there, and we love Columbus, so we were like, let's live down there, and we can always move back up. We're young, it's fine. And so did that, and that's when a few years passed after that, and we got the opportunity to purchase 13th floor Columbus. So
yeah.
Well, I remember like every year they would always talk about, you would always hear a rumor that is a Fear Experience coming back, and we're just like, we were all kind of hoping, because I'm just like, I just want to go to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when it didn't, it was just like, kind of like, all right, whatever, and we kind of just moved on. So then let me ask you about Sky Sprout. What is that?
It's just my marketing company.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It was like my main focus during the years when it's my main focus in like college, when I was just trying to make money and helping haunted houses with online marketing.
Yeah.
So little backstory is that when we started the Fear Experience, we had, like I said, zero money for anything. We needed to sell tickets. So I went out and learned as much as I possibly could about online marketing. And so we got really, really good at like Facebook ads and social media and all these little things like search engine optimization. It was all this stuff that I'm like, I wrap my head around how like this is incredibly important, and I can't afford to hire anybody to like do it. So found like a family friend that did it professionally, and I just like essentially begged him to take me under his wing and teach me everything he knew.
Great. Yeah.
And he did it, and which was amazing. And then we saw the growth from that for our haunt, where we had no business growing as fast as we did that, like those first few years. And then haunts kind of one by one were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, we're doing these marketing things. They're like, great, I'm going to hire you for that. And then it just kind of grew from there.
It's amazing how the marketing side of things has really changed, like the marketing itself and how it changed the game, even for haunted houses. Think about Ohio itself, that's got how many haunts in the state? I mean,
a lot.
It's over 100.
Yeah.
It's like 120 something.
That are, I mean, open every year.
Yeah.
And they can be, you know what I mean? They're not Fear Columbus. Not all of them are, some of them are just small trail,
Sure.
which I love them. You know, they're great and everything, but it's just they can keep going. And I think that is large in part to guys like you that know how to market things, and people see that, I guess is what I'm getting at, and they're just like, this was pretty cool. Wonder what else is out there. And then they might start searching and seeing, you know, oh, look, there's a trail in the woods that we're going to go check out.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, you know, kind of a cool thing in the community, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you still doing that? Do you still have that?
Mm-hmm. So we did it was a big focus when I didn't have a haunt. We did like a conference one year because, you know, I get bored and decide to do stupid stuff. So we threw this big conference and lost a bunch of money, and it was awful, but everybody had a great time. The conference was fantastic. Like, don't get me wrong, but went away from that business real quick. And then while I'm wallowing in all of that and sad that the conference didn't do well, and like, we don't have a haunt. And then it was just like one day, 13th floor, like Chris Stafford at 13th floor calls me, and he's like, hey, like, we're looking to sell this location, and, you know, are you interested? And I was like, yes, and like, we're gonna figure out how to do this.
Right.
But along that way, like, the reason that essentially Chris and I have that relationship is because I've been doing their online marketing since I was in college. So it's been over 12 years at this point. And every year we get a little bit more of that, like, you know, part of the business, a little more marketing areas. Like last year we started doing like the billboards and like radio and other stuff outside of just helping them with like social media stuff. So we've had a great relationship with all of their locations, and when it came time to buy or for them to sell, they're like, you're local, and he's like, you need to get back in the haunt industry.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It's like, for all of our sakes, like, he's like, you always like learn and teach us something when you're like out there doing it for yourself. So I was like, yep, we're gonna.
Now, was that a complete gut job when you took? I know you kept the name for a year, and then you changed it to Fear Columbus. Did you guys like, we're changing everything? Or did you keep some things? How'd you do that?
So, the structure is still standing, as it was when it was 13th floor. So I actually, 13th floor, Scaratoriums last year was 2017.
Right.
That was kind of the year that 13th floor started to like integrate with them. Nick and I actually moved to Columbus in early 2017. I ended up at Transworld that year meeting Marco, who's now our general manager,
Yes.
and him and I became very fast friends. And he was at Scaratorium at the time. I didn't have a haunt. He actually reached out to me and was like, hey, come work at Scaratorium. It happened to be the year that 13th floor was kind of moving in. So that was cool because I kind of got the best of both worlds. Like, I knew Alex at the time was kind of she was like the GM, kind of like helping with the transition. So I worked with her really closely in 2017, and then come 2018, Marco and I actually started the whole teardown of Scaratorium. Sorry for anyone who's watching from Scaratorium. I know that's like, it sucked because like, I understand, like, there's an emotional connection, obviously, like Nick and I, well, mostly Nick, but me too, like when the Fear experience closed, like that, it sucks. So like,
sure,
that was like definitely hard, but we were, you know, very eager to, you know, take this next step. So Marco and I started the teardown of Scaratorium, and then we joined the team. So Ashley was the GM at the time, and then we worked on a small team. There were only like 5 of us that completely did the teardown and the rebuild, and then some artists from 13th floor kind of came in to help with some set stuff towards the end. We had an amazing 3D artist come in. He freehanded the whole first house with spray paint and stuff. So we really had good bones because it was built and like completed in 2018. So when we got the opportunity to buy it in 2020, we kept kind of everything the same just because we didn't get into the building until like late August, really. And things were moving fast. But as far as like the theming and everything goes for the houses, the whole first house, the walking path is the same, but every single room in there has been touched. Like, we completely rethemed it. We took out all the 3D, which was very painful to paint over after spending a summer watching Dallas paint all that. But that whole first house has changed to kind of a more darker, grungier, like, it's like a cult theme now. And then the second attraction is pretty much the same. Every room has been touched and upgraded and added to and maybe shifted a little bit. But this is kind of the year that we're thinking it's gonna get its makeover. So, yeah.
Well, that's a good point on certain things. Like, I got to tear everything down. Like in the big cell blocks, that all has to leave every year. Okay, we got semi-trailers, we load everything in, and it's all on storage. Where do you guys land on retheming? Like, I know a guy's like, I retheme my haunt every year. I'm like, every year? I mean, we do stuff.
Yeah.
But like, what do you guys, like a major overhaul? How often do you do that?
Well, I think it's a bad example of what's been done. Like what we've done so far isn't necessarily what we want to do moving forward, because it's been 2 years of, getting to the first season was just getting the doors open, because it was like, we had a month and a half, like August and like, 2 weeks in September to get like the doors open from essentially a building that was vacant for 8 months before that. Mm-hmm. So we got the keys and it's like you open in 2 months. And I'm like, ooh, okay. So that was like no upgrades, whatever, worried about. And then it was the first haunt for that, the year after that, where it was 100%, the walls got painted black and you just started over.
Yeah.
100%. Not one prop was kept because it was clowns, and now it's not. So it's like there's nothing to save.
Sure.
And then last year we like kind of dove into different parts of the business to like worry about, and less about like retheming. So last year was a really bad example, but that was like nothing really rethemed. It was every room got like uplifted and like fine-tuned and like tons of tech, and then we were just open all year. It was like we're open for Christmas and Valentine's, 4 weekends throughout the year for Nightmare Combat, for laser tag, and then we're open the second weekend of September. So it's there wasn't a lot of room. Moving forward, it will be at least one house will be like rethemed a year, but hopefully we can get on a schedule that's a little bit more aggressive, because I think we're realizing that it has to be new, like way more new stuff in a year to get people to come back. We have people that are like actively commenting and filling out surveys and that are kind of communicating with our brand that are like, it was fantastic, love it, but it looks like the haunt names were the same last year, so like we'll just come during and like Krampus this year, and it's like, well, that's not a bad thing, like fine, but it's pretty easy to see like if you were to upgrade, you'd have more repeat customers. But we also want to balance it, because I don't want to just slap new names, themes, and be like, it's a new theme and it's like voodoo versus a seance. And it's like, well, okay, are you just going to have 4 new characters and like a little bit of, reskinning? It's like, no, like when we retheme it and we say like, this is a new house, I want it to be like a new house. Like you can't really recognize it. So
I always wondered how many people, cause like I've been here for, I don't know, 7 years now. And it's like, there's a couple I could point out, I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? But it's like, how much repeat do you get at a haunted attraction? I mean, really, or is it that generation every 5 years? Oh, well, these kids are in junior high, they're going to start coming now. You know what I mean? Up until like guys my age that, I'll go to haunted attractions until the day I die probably. But, that's the hard part. And like trying to, I think anyways, stay relevant as far as what's, I guess, trendy. You know what I mean? Because everybody's seen a guy with a chainsaw run out of the haunt chasing you, but it still works.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you change that? You know what I mean? Or do you just like, well, let's try and, make something new or not reinvent the wheel? That's, I always think, is kind of the struggle. What do you think?
Well, what's cool that since 2020, we decided there's only online tickets and everybody's picking a time. So, and then for everything but the season till now, we've had waivers for every customer. So something that's been great is that we have almost every single person that walks through the door, we've got customer data on.
Right.
Totally different than what we've had in the past, where it's like 1 out of the 4 people, and then 50% of that, since half of them walk up and pay cash. So now we've got a really, really good understanding of like who our customers are, how often they come, and what's kind of been the coolest thing that's a little bit of a different answer, but like the most helpful thing we've realized is that each of these events we do is a totally, totally different customer. Christmas has become this family event that, I mean, it's the best vibe overall. Like, it's just these families and like, people that are just there having a blast, all smiling, no complaining.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Funny. Yeah.
Valentine's
It's
is
that Christmas spirit.
Yeah, it's late. It's laid back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And then you get to, so that's like one subset of people. And then it seems like those people come every year to that. And then our Valentine's people, like, they come to Valentine's and they come, as often as they can to that. Nightmare Combat is, those people pretty much just come to Nightmare Combat. It's,
crazy.
40 to 60-year-old or maybe 35 to 50-year-old, men. And they're,
Really?
100%, yeah.
Wow.
And they're just coming with groups of guy friends and having a blast. And then the season's a little more like all over the place in terms of demographics. But what's not happening that we're realizing is like we're not getting those people that are coming to Nightmare Combat and then like trying to get them to come to like the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was kind of what the initial thought was, is like, yeah, you came to this, now come to the season. It's like these people just find events they like and then you try and get them to come back to those things that they like, and maybe you try and push them to other things to come to more stuff, but more often than not, like those special events like and the season have a big enough pool of people that like you don't need to get 50-year-old people to like guys that go to Nightmare Combat to come to the season, because there's plenty of younger kids that don't go to any of the other events that'll go to that. So our repeat customers are really good and
that's great,
and that's good. But like I said, more often, or the bigger thing we've uncovered is that those pockets of customers are kind of different demographics are really, really neat to now figure out that all those different types of people would have come to stuff that we've done. It just has to be a little more geared towards them.
Right.
So,
well, that must have been good too, like, being out of the game for a minute and then coming back in. That had to have felt good, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, because it's just, just like we were talking about the fear experience and how good it was and how it was getting, where it was getting, and not doing that for a few years had to have sucked. I mean, just because, like you said, man, I've been doing this since I was, a kid in the garage, and now you've just taken it to a whole new level. So that's just great. You know what I mean? Yeah. Do you ever think about going, it'd probably be hard to think about as busy as you guys are, but doing another, like opening another one somewhere, in Cincinnati, another one in Cleveland or something like that?
So when we first went down to Columbus, that was kind of like always on my mind of like, cool, like it would be cool. Like I don't want to open 50 of these, but it would be really cool to like have a few in Ohio and like the major cities. And that was in the back of my mind as like a plan, but also like knowing we've been out of this for a while, like that, like we're just going to kind of take it one step at a time. If it happens, it happens. And then what has been way more fun and way cooler, in my opinion, has been pulling people from all of those cities to Columbus.
Yeah.
And now I have pretty much zero interest in trying to like open another one in a city in Ohio or do anything, because like we've got over 50% of our customers come from outside of Columbus.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And like that to me is like there's tons of room to grow for Columbus customers, and like you can market heavier in Cleveland and get people to come down. Why would I go, spend $1 bazillion and open another
a new one? Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, here, and we pull from both Columbus and Cleveland. We kind of have to,
Oh yeah.
Which reminds me, it was actually really funny. I was driving into work one day, Halloween season, this is this year. Driving in, and I pull off on the exit, and I look up, and I'm like, Fear Columbus. How cool is that? I saw your billboard, and then I was just like, okay, there we go. You know what I mean? And then I saw the one coming in on 30 coming from 71. There was one there too.
Yeah.
Fear Columbus. I'm like, okay.
Oh, they're all over the state.
The reason why I brought it up is because I'm always like unsure about billboards. Now we have like maybe 4 or 5. Not a ton of them, but we have like ones on each way 71, and then we have one each way 30. And I had a digital one somewhere in Cleveland. I'm not sure where. The guy came to me. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" We had the budget to do it, so I'm like, "Yeah, let's put one up there." But when I saw yours, I'm like, "Sweet." It must be. If Nick's doing it, then it must be a good thing to do. So it made me feel like, holy shit, I'm doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
Well, don't take that logic. I think most haunts do that. They copy what me or my clients do, not to like make myself sound like everybody copies me, but like I've
Right.
seen it plenty of times where like we get copied and I'm like like, okay, cool, like you didn't realize that like we learned last week that doesn't do shit,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
copying us. And like especially with billboards, like everybody do what they think works, but like last year was the first year we did it aggressively
Oh, gotcha.
and
Okay.
like really aggressively, and I haven't sat down to figure out if we're gonna do it again. So
Right.
like, you know, it's like definitely measure it, but like I tell haunts to like not
Yeah.
copy us because like we're just trying so much shit. I don't know
Yeah.
yet what's gonna
And
stick.
that one in particular is really hard to track. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Because you're just putting up a big sign. You know, it's not like people are like, hey, I saw your billboard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
So, but I always do it just because it's like, you can't not see it when you're driving. You know what I mean? You're going to see it, you know, so it can't hurt, I guess. And it's
Yeah.
not like crazy. Like, I don't think it's real crazy expensive to do. And it's up all the time. I actually had someone call here and told us that we had 2 days to take our billboard down. And I was just like, why? What's going on? And they're just like, no, they just called and said you have 2 days to remove it. And I said, okay, what for?
And who?
Well, because the lady called and it was giving her daughter nightmares. And I was like, oh, so when 2 days is up, then what?
Right.
So, well, she didn't say. I was like, she ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm like, good. I'm glad it gave him nightmares. I guess it's doing its job. So that was another thing I thought with billboards. I'm like, sweet, it's working.
We
You know what I mean?
We had a billboard this year, like on our road, like before the haunt, and it was the front and back of one, and it actually like peered into the window of like a little kid's school.
Yeah.
We had no idea when it was, you know, being placed, but I mean, it was directly like one of our actors like screaming into
Yeah.
this window, and we all thought it was kind of funny, but no one really complained about it. But we have actually like we've definitely run into like sometimes on news segments, like I remember specifically when we were marketing Nightmare Combat, people did not really love that because obviously like gun violence is a very real thing, you know, it's which I like, we're trying to be sensitive, but we did a news like a little news marketing once, and they aired us like right after they aired a story about a school shooting.
Oh.
So we had somebody call that was very upset about that, understandably so, because that was poor timing, but
Yeah, but that wasn't on you guys, though.
yeah, I know, but
you called the news station. You know what I mean? What are you
it's
gonna do?
like it's Halloween season. Like you
Yeah.
gotta advertise. Like I understand, but you know, sometimes you just can't control them all.
No, you can't. You really can't. I mean, it's even like that. Even with the people that come to your show, you know, because I tell everybody, look, if your kid's under 10, probably not a good idea. You know what I mean? And the actors kind of know if they see a little kid, not to go, you know, crazy on them or anything.
Right.
But when you get a call and complaint over a sign, over a billboard, it's just like,
Yeah,
well, yeah,
it's a
it's
haunted
not like
house.
you're coming here. What do you want me to do? The guy across town, he's called the Trail of Nightmares. Him and I are good friends. You know, I work with him, and you know, it's a really good relationship. But he lives somewhere. He messaged me one day, sent me a text. He's like, "Hey, I got up this morning, and guess what I saw?" And I was like, I don't know what. And he took a picture and sent it. It was my billboard because his house faces like right towards the highway. And he's like, "This is what I got to see every morning when I wake up."
That's funny.
Sorry, dude. What do you want me to do?
Yeah,
You know, but yeah. So that's great though. I mean, the different ways to advertise your haunt now and everything, and
Yeah.
you know how the digital world has really taken that over. But it's really so much more than that now, or it's become so much more than that. With the advertising, I think that everything that goes into it, from acting to your security, your crew, your parking, how hands-on are you guys with that? As far as like, you know, especially like the actors and like makeup and all that good stuff. You guys still aggressively involved in that and making sure like it looks how you want it?
yeah. So Nick is definitely more involved with like the marketing and ticketing and like a lot of the tech and behind the scenes stuff. I'm more hands-on with the actors, and actually we have like a really good staff of people. We have like our core team. So something that was like probably the best move we've made was hiring somebody to be a full-time staff coordinator. So his name is Toodle. He's the best. He does our costumes as well. So he, during the season, was like, you know, doing our costumes and stuff. He just graduated from CCAD, so he was had an internship with us, and we just kind of kept him on. He never left. So I hired him to be our full-time staff coordinator. So basically he helps with the hiring, placing people, scheduling people, like all that stuff. But him and I work very closely together to make sure that the shows are kind of how we want them to look. And then we have our performance lead, Deshaun. So he kind of takes whatever I tell him and then makes it happen in the houses with his team. And then event staff, we have an event lead who, works with, while we're open and operational, works with our event staff. But we still have a hand in kind of portraying like what we want, and then our leads kind of handle it for us while we're open. But yeah, I would say we talk to the staff every night before they go out into the houses. We do like a weekend wrap meeting, so we just kind of get everyone together. We usually feed them, just do something fun, for the staff, because we would not have a show if it wasn't for our staff. And,
of course. Yeah.
I'm very proud of like what we've built, and I'm really proud of them because they've just really stepped up. Like, Nick and I kind of, even though this is something that we were looking to do and wanting to do, we bought this business in the middle of a pandemic, like 2 months before we opened. There was a lot of just like figuring out the world. There was a lot of like bending, shifting, all that kind of stuff. And there's been a lot of staff that has been with us since we bought the place, and just to see them like stick with us and how they've grown and how they've carried the shows. I mean, this is event staff, this is our actors, this is like makeup, costume, just everybody has like really come together. So at this point, like I'm definitely involved, Nick's definitely involved. Like we have obviously the way we want things to look, but at this point, like our staff is just so like hands-on and just capable. So it runs itself, really. Like, and of course we would not be able to do this without Marco. He runs our shows while we're open. I don't know how he does it, but that dude's everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that light show you guys did at Christmas when I was there, and I saw the video of the one this year.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Very lucky with him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does a great job. So do you ever, Nick, did you ever, I know you did, but did you ever like get into character, get out there and like at Fear Experience or even Fear Columbus, just jump in once in a while?
Yeah. So the first time Jess went to like a haunted house and like went to Fear Experience, I was like acting and like literally saw her, and then like whether she realizes it or not, and then like it was like even that night, like when we were
you were dressed as a clown, weren't you?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I was
he slid up to me as a clown. I remember.
A sliding clown that made no sense. It was every stereotypical like haunt actor character in one. It was great. I don't regret it at all. But that
first impressions.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But no, I love acting and doing that stuff. But when we're open, I'm barely getting like my own stuff, like own work done. So like I don't anymore. But I don't know, I might have acted like one night since we bought the place. But it was kind of funny because like the year before, like the Christmas before we bought the place, Jess and I were at 13th floor Columbus, just like acting like for I don't know,
Krampus.
We were just there for the night, like acting for fun, and it was like, and then we were buying tickets and going like for whatever a little bit before that. So we were just always still wanting to be as involved as we could be in haunts and whatever. But I guess like when we're open, and as Jess was talking about, like how we're directing, and then like the staff is taking over, like taking it from there. That's kind of been the coolest stage to get to, where we're not sitting there like micromanaging and holding everybody's hand. Like we're helping. This is like set the plan together, and then they're taking that plan and actually like executing it. And now because they've got like those foundational elements done, now we just keep growing and expanding on it, and we can do more and more. But we want our role to be where we can actually like grow and expand the business and what we do, and find all of those things that the staff's not going to be able to necessarily pick up on because they're running the show. It's hard to sometimes pick up on things, and then there's also things that like they're picking up on because they're running the show that we're not. So just trying to kind of let them run it while we're open, and then regroup and you know, kind of do like our powwows and stuff before and after, so that while the show's in motion, they don't have us breathing down their neck just for a few things.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's gonna be hard to do. I remember when I first started here, I was a micromanager. I did small with, you know, the Robert Kurtzman's thing over in Crestline. It was tiny. It was a little haunt, but we had so much fun doing that. But when we came over here, it was just like, oh shit, this is a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
So I was constantly micromanaging, and it got to the point where some of my team were like, dude, we got it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, because I wasn't, you know, I mean, I was kind of thrown to the wolves, if, you know, lack of a better term. So yeah, I get that. You know, it's nice once you get to the point where it's kind of running itself, or everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and their job and everything, and just handling those certain situations that normally you know, in the early days you might be running like a madman to get to, but now you know that Deshaun's got it, or Marco can handle it, or, you know, that's a good thing. So talking about the Krampus, I know you guys have brought that up a couple times, and isn't it amazing how Halloween has basically infected the rest of the year?
It's great.
I think it's awesome. You know, I love doing it. I wish I could do more here with off-season events, but the Christmas event, I think, is just so much fun to do. It adds such a twist to Halloween and how you change the themes and make everything look and everything.
Yeah.
I can't remember the first time I went to a Christmas. What was the first one you guys went to? Or where'd you get that idea? It's like, we need to do a Christmas show.
Honestly, probably 13th Floor.
Yeah.
I think, like, we never did anything at the fair experience. We did, like, Nightmare Combat, but I think, the first one I went to was Krampus at 13th Floor Columbus.
Yeah.
And that was 2019 they did that. And I didn't work at 13th Floor in 2019 because that was the year Nick and I got married, and he threw his conference, so we were like a little tied up with that kind of stuff. So we went back at the end of the year, like we were married, and I was like, I gotta get some kind of haunt fix in this year. So yeah, I think honestly, like the first one, I think that might have been the only one I've ever gone to as well. Yeah,
we went to some Sense, but that was like the first one. We went to like Brimstone and
I totally forgot. Yeah,
so we've been to others.
It's just good how, you know, because before it was always like you don't get to go to another haunt because you're working, you know, the season. So now when people are doing this, you get to kind of go see, even though it is a different show, so to speak. You know, you're still getting to have the experience.
Yeah.
What made you guys go with 2 weekends? This is the first time you guys did 2 weekends, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just demand.
The demand.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, the first year we did it, we did Friday and Saturday over one weekend, and it was just like, we just couldn't hold any more people, and people were like, please, like, we want to come. So, and on top of that too, like, our staff just really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
They were like kind of bummed that it was only 2 days, and I think the general consensus was that all of us were like, this is so gorgeous, like, we have this crazy light show that Marco did, like, him and his team just decorate the haunts to the nines. Like, the light show is very impressive, like, don't get me wrong, but like, it's every single scene is Christmas lights, Christmas decorations, trees. Like, I don't even know how many trees we have, like, so many. And so it was just kind of one of those things too, that like the demand was there, and also we have, in my opinion, like, it's just a gorgeous event, like, and we want to experience it more ourselves. So
what about like the Nightmare Combat thing? Let's talk about that a little bit. I know you guys just are launching that for this year. Mm-hmm. How does that, where did you get that concept from? Because it's great. Laser tag within a haunt is an amazing idea. Where'd that come from? What'd you guys do in there?
We did that back in Cleveland, and that was from a team that was kind of working with iCombat, who is a laser tag gun manufacturer, and then they were trying to essentially sell the guns to haunted houses. So kind of a similar thing that, like with Christmas, like they took it to a 13th floor haunt, did it at 13th floor, did it at like our haunt in Cleveland, and we were all testing this to see, one, how we could get people to come out, how we could market it and present and explain a fairly like complicated concept of like shooting monsters and walking through a haunt and like trying to get that all together. And then we got it to the point where we could get people to show up and like sell a lot of tickets. And then we said, like, how do we keep kind of growing this? And it was very shortly after that we had like lost the building. So we only got like a year, I think. And like that for us was like 2 weekends or maybe 3 weekends in Cleveland. And then we like, you know, had to shut the doors. And so my marketing company got to keep marketing those events for 13th floor. And I think we did a couple of years where it was like other people, like other haunts that were doing it. We gave them a hand and helped out. So I had all these like ideas in my head for like those 5 years where I'm like, oh man, when we get back into this, like I know exactly like how we want to do this. And then as soon as we got back into it, we went all out with it. And between like, we bought brand new guns and like a whole new set of like equipment. And now it's incredible now. And it was always cool, but it was very much relying on you get to shoot, you know, actors, and it's a theatrical thing, and but it's still like pretend essentially, like you're just pretending, they're pretending to die, and that can be fun because walking through the haunt on your own is fun. So like it's not like it's a dumb idea by any means, like everybody had a blast doing it, but you left and you're like still like, okay, what do I get? A score? Do I get like what's going on here? And now with like the new equipment, it is two-way scoring. So the customer's shooting the actor, they've got a live real-time score on their gun of how many kills, how many times they've had even an assist. And then the actors have proximity sensors, and the guns have proximity sensors. So you have to kill that actor before they get within, 6 feet of you. And if you don't, then they start inflicting damage on your health.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And so now it's actually a game. Like now, you die, you come back to life very quickly, like a few seconds or whatever, but it's showing up as a death on your scoreboard and on the leaderboard and impacts your overall score. So now it just totally changed the dynamic where it's not a shooting gallery. Because if you want to sit there and just shoot the person and not do anything while you're shooting them, they're killing you. So you don't want to get close. You don't want to just stand there. So it makes it immersive. And then we said this needs to kind of feel more action-y. So I went to Marco and said, I want this thing, like this semi-truck over here, I want it to blow up like when it gets shot. He's like, cool, I don't know how to do that. I was like, neither do I. And like then we just kept saying like, okay, let's put like a fog machine and like let's do these fans. And then it was air cannons, and then it turned into this thing that now costs somewhere between like $8,000 to $10,000 for these explosions. And it was outrageous, but it was so cool and memorable. Yeah. So now you walk by like this car and it's all, this destroyed car with an actor on top. It's kind of like the iconic thing in our commercial. And when you're walking by and shooting this actor that's, freaking out and acting on top of the car literally explodes in front of you. And when it explodes, it's like blasting you with fog and like all sorts of different senses. It smells like it's exploding. Like it's really, really cool. It's hard to like kind of visualize until you see it because it's not fire, but you really can't tell. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah. There's a ton of other stuff like that gives it it's not a haunted housey vibe. It's very, very much like you feel like you're in an action movie. So tried to make it as different as we possibly can from the normal haunted house. Yeah. Are you worried about your actors sometimes when you do that kind of stuff, maybe getting too close or customers actually getting a little maybe too close to them, or even maybe your props? You know what I mean? Like maybe getting some damage on the props as they're going through, or, that kind of situation.
I think a big thing that we learned after doing this event the first time was definitely, it helped with, honestly, COVID helped because when we opened and operated, we were like 6 feet. So our actors were already, at least 6 feet. And then after this first weekend, we were kind of like, okay, here's all the things that like went right. Here's the things that we need to change. And I think just in general, as we've kind of worked through the haunt and remodeled it or added or taken away, a big thing that we've done is we've added like a lot of actor boxes. And a lot of the scares are not like directly in your face because we do not want our actors to get hurt. And we all know that customers get creative at times. So, but it's definitely been something like that's been very helpful, is just having some kind of barrier already. Like the scares are still impactful, The actors have somewhere to kind of like disappear. Another thing that was, kind of an issue the first round of this is they didn't really have anywhere to go once they died. So they were like totally collapsing to the floor and then standing up, and then they're getting really sore. And it's just like, it's already such a physical job. So having them like completely die on top of that was just like, it sucked for them. So we definitely have added a lot of elements of just like they're behind a barrier. We don't have like open scares. We don't have actors like popping up like directly in your face, just because, again, customers have these knee-jerk reactions, and this time they just have this like weighted laser tag gun in their hand. So it's really easy to just like, and
Sure.
So we honestly like haven't had too many issues with it. It's kind of to the point now where it's like, if you get hit by a laser tag gun, like you're doing something wrong, because you have all this space between you and the customer. And then honestly, as far as like props and stuff getting damaged, like I would say like sometimes the walls take a little bit of a beating if they're just kind of like turning too quick or whatever. But it's also been kind of helpful because they have this laser tag gun in their hand that takes 2 hands to operate. So they're not like, touching everything, grabbing stuff. They don't have their phones out. Like they're just genuinely like walking through with this laser tag gun. I mean, we've seen people crawl, like army crawl. Some guy was like doing flips last year with these with these guns. Like they get really into it. So, and I mean, like Nick said, like the demographic is totally different. Like people aren't coming there to like cause trouble. Like they already feel like they're accomplishing something because they get to shoot a monster. So that's just been really helpful. And I mean, we've kind of stopped with the whole like, if you get shot, like don't fall to the floor and die. Like just retreat behind this curtain, or like retreat out of this door, or like back into your box kind of thing. So that's definitely been very helpful. And honestly, like the actors, it kind of went from the most like exhausting event. It's still pretty exhausting, but
I'm sure it is.
Like the excitement for the event has definitely gone up now that they don't have to like collapse to the floor 500 times a night. So
yeah.
It's also not it's not as entertaining when it's a haunted house kind of like actor where they're just like popping out right next to you and getting in your personal space, because it's not fun, because it's not challenging to try and shoot somebody like 5 feet away from you. So
right.
we try and take every scare and like that would be like right next to you and move it somewhere like far away, or at least in a way where they can kind of do something to make it challenging for you and a little more fun. So you're not shooting somebody 3 inches away. Like that's just not fun. So.
No, of course not. And you mentioned how COVID kind of trained them up for that, with the 6 feet and everything. How did that impact you guys? Like, as far as, I mean, we had to shut down like the cell blocks. We couldn't run them that year.
Yeah.
Just because it was so up in the air, we didn't know because we're set up tear down. How did that affect you guys as far as your season goes on that year?
I mean, personally, I think our season went really well, just because we were one of the only forms of live entertainment that was like open and available. So we had people that typically wouldn't come out to a haunted house coming to the haunted house.
Yeah.
And I mean, our actors, oh my gosh, they were troopers that year, because we took every precaution like necessary. I mean, we were disinfecting the whole both attractions each night. Everybody wore a medical mask, and then we did like a lot of like silicone and half masks to avoid makeup. So they were sweating, but they handled it like champs. They gave a great show. The crowds, honestly, from what I remember, I mean, this year seems like a fever dream, to be honest, because it was just so quick. But the groups were like pretty tame. Like we didn't have a lot of issues. Like people were actually just like so thankful to get out of their houses and have something to do. So yeah.
It was different people. It was a lot of people who were straight out admitting like, I don't like haunted houses, but I got to get out and do something.
Yeah.
And then they have fun and they leave and they're like, you know what? Like that's way different than like the last time I was at a haunted house, which was like, when I was a kid or, 10 years ago, like wife dragged me to one or something like, so,
right.
But attendance was up like 10-15% over the previous year before we bought it, which was probably just due to the fact that like not everybody was open. I think we definitely didn't do anything like cool with marketing that year. Like it was the same, it was a 13th floor name. So, it wasn't like the new thing yet, which always draws some people.
Right.
But it was a lot of little stuff that we could talk about forever. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but that because of that year, kind of got the customers doing what we wanted, like way sooner, like time ticketing and things. Like most customers would not have just like gone for that if like right out of the gate 100% time ticketing, but that helped us introduce it to them, and then they said, okay, wait, that's so much better than like waiting. And
really is.
I mean, yeah. So little things like that, and then the cleaning, we just never stopped. We certainly didn't do it like, I mean, we were doing it to like a crazy level of disinfecting like nonstop every inch every night. Like it was crazy. We had like a team that was just really put up with it, and it was a lot. But what we've kept has been like, I don't know, some of the best stuff that we still are doing is stuff that we introduced at COVID, and then we're like, why have we ever not done that before? Like just do it. Like bite the bullet. Might have cost more money. It might have taken more time, but like nobody gets sick anymore. Like nobody. None of our actors get sick. There's no mid-season like, oh, everybody's out with like a cold or whatever.
Right.
Nobody, because we're disinfecting everything. We're telling them the same sort of rules on if you have a sniffle, stay home.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's just tons of things, but certainly was not all positive by any means. But a couple of those things that we did because of COVID were some of the best things that we do now.
Yeah, the silver lining on some of that was nice. You know what I mean? Because it is the same. I mean, I think since then, I mean, we still have people that'll get sick here and there, but it's like it's so much less. That people are, you know, and even, you know, from just actors to, we call them stoplights, you know, we just kind of do the same thing. Like, you know, if someone comes in or they call and say, hey, I tested positive. Well, come back when you test negative, you know, and it's kind of a routine now. But there was that silver lining, I think, not for us at first, but eventually the time ticketing thing was just like, you're right. Why didn't we do that before?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was like, it just totally made sense. And I was all about it, you know, but I kind of got to like, you know, I kind of split things here with the reformatory as far as like how the event runs and everything.
Sure.
And they weren't on board with it because it was more like numbers. It was more about numbers than anything else. We got to get, you know, asses in seats, people through the door. I'm like, I get that. And it's like, you still will, but it just won't be all at once. You know, it makes sense. Everybody I talked to was like, this is the way you got to go.
Yeah.
Well, it won't work here because, you know, we do so many. I'm like, dude, there's other haunts out there that do our numbers. It's not like we're the only ones. Yeah. You know, and I was just trying to explain it to him. And then I went to Transworld the one year, took the seminar, and really like delved in and took a bunch of notes, which I'm not one for writing. My hands all, and I got out of there and I'm like reading everything. I was just blown away.
Yeah.
And I brought it back and I showed him, like, I'm telling you, we got to do this. The actors are going to be better. The lines are going to be better. Everything is going to be better. We're not going to be here till 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and it was this whole thing leading up. They're just like, you know, and the opening night last year, I was just like, listen, if you don't see 1,000 people standing outside, don't freak out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're not going to all be here at 7:00. They're going to come throughout the night. That's the idea. I don't want no one coming to me going, oh, Vic, that didn't work. And once we got like the first weekend under our belts, are like, you're right. And it's not about that. I'm not saying, look, I was right. I told you. I'm like, no, dude, people did it before us.
Yeah.
This is the way to go. I'll never go back.
I think the only thing that I tell, like, I don't know, as far as like everybody, like it'll work, you do have to have a product that is worth the extra planning, the extra kind of like, there's a step involved there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go to a haunt this weekend with my buddies, and, you know, whenever, maybe we will, maybe we won't, that's the plan, but, you know, if so-and-so wants to go to a bar instead, like, we'll go to the bar. Like, that's the original, like, the normal thought process and the planning process is that I don't have to plan this, and we'll go, but, like, if we don't, okay, and your product has to be good enough that group is then going to say, like, this is what we're doing. We want to go to, you know, Fear Columbus. Great. Okay, well, like, then, you know, let's grab tickets later. Well, no, you can't. This is when you got to do it. You got to buy them, you know, a couple days in advance, usually, if you want, like, any decent time. You grab your tickets. and you plan this evening out. But again, it's like our product has to live up to that kind of a quote unquote headache or that little bit of extra planning. And if it's not, and it's just like, I don't want to do that because here's all the other alternatives of fun things I could do. Well, then then it's not worth that. So probably doing a bad job of explaining it, but essentially it's like your product has to have enough of an inherent demand that people are excited enough to go and inspired enough to go that little part of the planning process they don't get to, and they're like, oh fuck, I don't want to I forgot, I don't know what time yet.
Yeah.
They have to still want to figure that out with their group.
Sure.
So that means that you got a good product if it didn't affect your attendance. So that's great.
It didn't at all. Actually, we did very well, and I was actually concerned because the year before was our record year. It was a lot of everybody's record year that year.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, look, we're probably going to go down, and we did, but I mean, it was a fraction.
Yeah.
It was barely any, and it was just amazing. Now there were like the repeat customers that came up, and they were like, where do we buy tickets? I'm like, well, we had like QR codes is what we did, and it was just like, do the QR code that'll be on your tickets there. And they're like, oh, well, we always pay cash. And we're like, well, we don't do that anymore. And they're like, oh, okay. So then they would do that. But I mean, I'm thinking that the learning curve was last year for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just kind of like, how it goes when you're doing something new, I suppose. But yeah, it worked out really well. And I'm just, I wasn't blown away or surprised, but definitely happy because I got a few people, I'm gonna say a lot, but there was a few that came up and said, hey, we were at this haunt and they have time ticketing, but they were just letting us in line. We kind of really held true to it. Like, it's like, dude, your tickets are for 8:30. It's 7:15.
Yeah.
You can't get in right now. And they're like, oh, really? It's like, well, yeah, so we kind of held true to that. And I knew some other people weren't, and a couple people came and it's like, thanks for doing that because like we had a 3-hour wait at this haunt.
Yep. And
we had time tickets and they were just letting people go. And I'm just like, I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why would you do that? Because that's always been my biggest complaint here is like, oh man, we got to wait 4 hours. I'm like, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But that's always like my response, like not actually, but like it's really like, listen, nobody's forcing you to come here. Like if you don't think it's worth like a few hour wait, then like don't come. Like come on a Sunday or like, come during the week or whatever. Like there's other options, but you are going to wait because in some way it's worth it to you, or not waiting is worth $10-$20. So like you got to pick one. You're fine.
Yeah.
But
no, well, and I would always do the we got a fast pass. That's going to cut your wait down in half easy. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but I got to pay an extra $20. Like, yeah, but you don't got to wait. You know what I mean? So I mean, pick your, what do you want to do here? But that's always the hassle, at least I think, not hassle, but the headache is trying to figure out, for me anyways, was trying to figure out how, to keep your customer happy coming in, like when they're getting there. And last year it was like that. I mean, the longest wait, I think even on our busiest night was like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And if you're complaining about that, then I don't know what to tell you, man. We used to be 4 to 6 hours sometimes waiting here. You know what I mean? But it worked out really well, and I'm glad. I mean, whoever thought that up was like, that's the way to go, man.
100%.
Yeah.
Way to go. So what's the future hold at Fear Columbus, man? What do you guys got coming up?
Just, obviously Nightmare Combat this year. I think the second house is long overdue for a remodel. So we're kind of, I think the thing with me and Nick is that we're very ambitious. Our team is very ambitious. So basically anytime we say any plan out loud, it usually ends up happening. But there's been a lot of plans kicking around this year. And just kind of making sure to get everything that we want to get done and the attractions done, but also like a little work-life balance would be nice here or there. But yeah,
we this was the first year that we skipped our Valentine's Day event because like it was a hard thing to do because it does very, very well, but there's a lot that we want to get done this year and we had to start like earlier. So we're very close to like announcing some cool stuff and whatever, and like it right now like the focus is getting through launching this Nightmare Combat season, but as soon as that's done, like we'll start announcing like more details about the season. But it will definitely be the biggest upgrade year we've ever done, and
right on.
Upgrade, retheming, and then Christmas this year is going to be insane. Like I think people that went, like the year you went was the first year we did it. This past year, I think if you even look at like some review people and different people that go to like 40, 50, like there was one guy that went to like, I think it was 40 different Christmas haunts. And he's like, this was totally different. We looked at this past year and we're like, that's kind of just the beginning. Like that's just scratching the surface. So the Christmas egg is huge. I'm beyond excited for the future of that because I think we're barely scratching the surface, and what we've done so far is it's one of the things I think we've done that I can confidently say like is the absolute best Christmas event in the entire country for haunts without a doubt.
That's great.
Everything else we do is great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like we do a great job with everything. Laser tag I think is probably the best laser tag haunted house thing, but that's such also like a specific thing to be the best at, whatever. But like like our Christmas event, like I'm sorry, but show me something better. Like that thing is so fucking good.
Yeah,
like,
it was great, man. The year we went was great.
Yeah, that was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what was the biggest thing for us too with Christmas and with everything, I think, is improving the customer experience before they get, inside. So we had a really cool thing that we gradually added this year throughout the season where the entire outside was like, one was like a midway, but it was just like this really cool like festival-ish vibe, and that was like trying some of that stuff. So we'll have videos of that up like pretty soon because it was like kind of every weekend we would add a little bit more as the lines got longer, and then this year it'll be like out of the gate the whole thing will be set up. And then like all of our events, since we're in Ohio, that are in like essentially just Valentine's and Christmas, all of the waiting was in tents, and then they were fully heated and enclosed. Oh,
there you go. Yeah.
So that's going to be like kind of what we do for anytime we open in cold weather, because it's just it's not worth, like, I don't know, it's worth the extra money for people to be like happy and comfortable. And the haunt can be amazing, but it's a really hard sell to keep them happy when they are outside for, say, a half hour, and it's Ohio weather. Like, that's really hard. I don't care how good your haunt is. Like, that's hard to keep that person happy.
Sure. Yeah. That was kind of one of the things we thought about before we were like, well, let's do this Christmas thing. And we like lined people like through the hallways. Yeah. Because, we didn't think we're not going to do the numbers we do at Halloween, but we got to keep them in because, December could be not that bad, or
it's really hit or miss.
It could be really bad. We could get snow and everything else. So we just kind of lined everybody in the hallway and, sold it as you get to see the front part of the building and all that good stuff. And that worked out well. So I get it. Now, what...
You literally said we've never been to a Christmas haunt.
Oh, I thought of that the second that we were like, we've never been to another one. We came to your Christmas event.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I know we went to one more. Yeah.
Nope. As soon as we moved out, I was like, no, we did come to yours.
Yeah, I remember really talking to you. We were supposed to do the 2020, but after the season, I think everything ramped back up again, and they kind of were just like, nah, you probably better not. Yep. So we didn't do it. But man, I love doing it, man. I love going to them, and I love doing it because it just seems, way less stressful. You know what I mean? And it makes it a little more fun. But as far as like you guys doing 2 weekends, I mean, you had one more weekend, you got almost another season, like pretty much running another season at your haunt, Yeah. Are you guys going to stick with the 2?
Probably.
I mean,
I would.
Probably, but what we figured out last year is that we could do a lot more people on a single night when we have like the tent and we have all that stuff. The year prior, we had to limit it a little bit more on a night because like you couldn't have sold that many tickets, and then if you had snow and it was that cold, it would have been a catastrophe. But once we figured that part out, like it opens the door to just have a little bit bigger nights. If we do anything else, it would be like maybe a Thursday or a like 1 or 2 weeknights or something that would allow those people that are busy on the weekend. But I don't know if we necessarily need to do more nights, like more weekends. It would just be like a different type of night.
Are you guys open Thursdays during the just regular Halloween season? Are you really?
Yeah.
We're open Wednesdays, Tuesdays.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that. That's one thing that we used to be open Thursdays, and it was like, You know, we might like, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 people, you know, which to us is, I don't know if it's really worth doing. So we ended up after the COVID year, we didn't do Thursdays. 2020 was the first year we kind of took Thursdays away. Plus we're not in Columbus, you know what I mean? So it's not like
It's a destination. It's totally different.
Yeah.
it really is, you know what I mean? So it just didn't work for us, but I didn't realize you guys were open. So that makes okay, because we went up to Nightmare Cleveland on a Thursday last year.
Yeah.
And that was fun. I'm like, finally somebody opened on a Thursday. So
Yeah.
we'll check you guys out then. Because that's always the main thing is like, I want to go during the season
Yeah.
and it's just hard to do.
I think that's like our other thought with, I mean, 13th Floor basically did like the way that we kind of do it in October is like we kind of just add a day each week as like the month progresses. So we kind of kept that. We kind of took that from 13th Floor. But it has been nice because we have had like a lot of other haunts come out that normally wouldn't be able to. And we love seeing other haunts. They've all been spectacular. And I mean, like we'll go when we're available to go, but it's cool to like see people and they always say the same thing. Like, I'm so happy that you're open and you know, it's cool. So that's been
Columbus
fun.
is kind of like how many haunts are down there? I mean, 3 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I know there's a couple other smaller ones in there just in the area. I mean, it's a thriving market, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not as many, and if there are, like they could. I'm not saying there's not, but there's not as many in the city of Columbus as you think.
Yeah. More on the outskirts or just.
Well, yeah, and out in like kind of like the farm areas and different like forests and trails and stuff like that is more of it. The city of Columbus is extremely difficult to get a haunt open in. It is very, 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 very hard. And to keep them happy along the way is very, very hard.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
I
feel you on that one.
We've spent a ton of time and money to like get the place. Like 13th Floor got it like to all of the heavy lifting and the big money was spent by them before we got in, which was fortunate for us. But then we've had to like change how we do a lot of things to like keep them happy and definitely give Jess like the majority of the credit on that the place is just so organized and pulled together and like all of our paperwork and documentation for like all of like the fire and safety stuff is so like organized that they just walk in and they're like, cool, like I can like not that simple, but they take in the fact that everything is organized and clean and like they have paperwork for everything and that like puts their whole mind at ease. So it's totally changed the dynamic with them. So we've learned that it's all about organization and cleanliness and definitely like paperwork.
Really? Cleanliness, huh?
Cleanliness not in the sense of like the table's clean. Cleanliness in the sense of like I need to be able to get out of your building, so you better not have a bunch of shit.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
less about that. More when they see like the place under construction and like worked on, it's like a totally different dynamic than like everything at the end of the night's like tools are put away and everything's clean, so they want to show up on a Wednesday. They show up and they're like, this is great. Looks like you guys could open tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Like, we don't want you to show up like or wait till like the day before we're gonna open, and then that doesn't need to be the thing. Like, just show up in the like August, do your inspection, and then show up randomly whenever you want, like you always do. So pop in and say hi.
Well, safety is always always a concern, and it's you want your customers to be safe, you want your crew to be safe. But there's some things that go with it where I'm like, that are just annoying. Not safety, but with the guidelines that come with it. Like I was talking, we're building in the East Cell block. Like we're building these new things. They're like totally facelifting the one side. And it's difficult because there's like these brick bump outs that are there. And then the big giant poles that, come on the outside of it. So you got to work around all that stuff, especially when you're set up in teardown. But they make me riddle the place with exit signs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I'm sure,
Oh yeah.
It's the bane of my existence. It's like, how do I make this bright and they won't let me do reflector exit signs or anything like that. It's got to be an electric powered exit sign. If we turn a corner, there better be one there. And it's just like, dude, you're killing me, man. One corner. Give me one room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, they got to know where they're going. I'm just like, the door. You know what I mean? But that's the part that is baffling in certain situations Like here, we're not handicap accessible. We're not.
Yeah.
It's not possible. The building wasn't built to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have to maintain a 36. Like they'll come through and measure.
Yep.
All my walkways got to be 36 inches.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sitting there just like, there's never going to be a guy in a wheelchair going through this. They can't get up the stairs, so there's no way.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but they're like, it's got to be 36.
Yeah.
So, and you know, and we keep
Right.
everything,
Yep.
you know, the way it's supposed to be. But it just, those types of things to me are just like, help me out here. You
Sure.
know, I've been to haunted attractions where we had to crawl through this corridor and like, it was nuts, but I'm sitting like, I'd never be able to do that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you do it. You know what I mean? So it just gets to the point where you're like, where are we going with this? Is this about safety? You know what I mean? Or what's this really about? You know, so it just, those are the headaches I feel that come with running probably anything really, but just a haunted house. So Columbus is, they're pretty, they keep the thumb on you, yeah?
Oh yeah. Oh, they want a tight ship like all around.
Yeah.
Like they definitely. I think getting the place open like the first year for them was like way worse than what we're dealing with now, which is like I said, we have a great relationship, but like our exit signs, for example, like every single door inside the haunt has a powered one above.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a powered one at the floor that are all tied together, and then you can look around any room and it's like bright as day with those. So you just got to figure out how to get creative like with it, and you need to
I
make
think like most customers understand too. Like they don't really complain about it, and if they do, we're kind of like, you know, it's a safety thing. Like we have to comply. Like
Sure.
you know, so people are like pretty understanding. I think like obviously when you're building a set and you're just like, this is the vision, and then there's like an exit sign in the middle, you're kind of like, damn it. Like I think us as like set designers and builders and stuff are like more hyper aware that there's an exit sign in there than like maybe a customer would be. So, but yeah, I mean, fortunately for us, like when we bought the place in 2020, they already had all the exit signs installed. Like 13th floor kind of, unfortunately for them, had to deal with all that.
Sure.
So Nick and I kind of just got to come in, like that was already taken care of. And, you know, our fire department's been honestly like pretty easy to work with. Like,
that's good.
You know, as long as you're nice and organized and, you know, obviously care about what they have to say. Like I get that haunted houses there's not really like a fire code just for haunted houses. So sometimes like someone's cool with something and then another person's not. So it's just kind of like willing to be flexible and, you know.
Yeah, you definitely got to roll with like, you know, we got a new inspector this year.
Yep.
And they roll in and they're just like, what are you doing it like this for?
Yeah.
Because no, that's not right. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, so you just do what you got to do or whatever to make it right. But it's like once you get to know them, they kind of, you know, they get what's going on. I had the one guy come like literally said to me, he goes, I understand what you're doing here. I understand what's going on. As long as we don't see any glaring issues, you're good.
Right.
And I mean, we're not even 20 feet into the first attraction. I'm sitting there going, really? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, sweet. Yeah. I was like, well, you just let me know, man, and I'll fix whatever you guys need me to fix.
Yep.
That's not a problem, you know. But that was another thing good with this year was like that was like really, you know, they understood, you know what I mean, coming through. Now, do you guys got to deal with like just fire, or do you got to do city and codes?
Oh yeah, I mean everything, the whole, like when we have to do every single permit, but it's all. Everything in the building is like a permanent occupancy. It's a permanent thing. So the only annual inspection that we have to currently get is is like a fire inspection, and then we have to do and submit like monthly. We don't submit them every month. We submit them at the end of the year when they come out. They're monthly inspections of internally that we do of every piece of equipment. So every month we have to test the the fire extinguishers, which is like a quick little thing, but there's like 75 of them or something ridiculous. There's like 100 and something emergency lights. All of those got to get tested, and then exit signs. So there's 200, 300 pieces of equipment. They get tested every month, documented on paper, and then like those get stored and then submitted to them. And so that's kind of the stuff that I mean when it's like organization or whatever. It's not that like our office looks clean. It's that like they can come in and say, okay, you said you did all this. Yep. Okay, great. Let's get started. And then like, we have to do every single permit, but it's all everything in the building is like a permanent occupancy. It's a permanent thing. So the only annual inspection that we have to currently get is the is like a fire inspection, and then we have to do and submit them every month when they come out. They're monthly inspections of internally that we do of every piece of equipment. So every month we have to test the okay, well, like, how do I know? It's like, okay, well, here's 9,000 pages of stuff that proves.
right.
So, and I think at the end of the day, a lot of this is them saying, like, I need to cover my ass and you can cover your ass. And,
Right.
like, which is fine. It means, like, they can prove to their boss and to everybody else, like, hey, like, yes, I went out there. They didn't just say it. They said, like, here's all their internal inspections. Here's our
Right.
inspection
They're
report.
following the rules. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the fire company that installs everything, like, they come out every year. So, like, there's tons of stuff that gets done, but luckily, like, we do have a permanent occupancy, so it's not like every time we want to open the doors, somebody's got to come out and, like, do it. It's only if we were to do, like, new construction or alterations, which luckily we haven't done. The floor plan is exactly the same, so you
Right.
never notice. So
So you don't got to do a different inspection for your Christmas show or for your Nightmare Combat or anything like that.
no, they're always welcome to come out. I think, like, one year they came out, like, Nightmare Combat, because they were just like, hey, we didn't know you were open. And then I, like, reminded them, like, yeah, like, it's a permanent occupancy. And they've come out, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So,
That's great. So then, I meant to ask you earlier when we were talking about fear experience. So, you know, obviously venue's kind of important. So you're like, you know, as much as Fear Columbus is now so relevant and, you know, a mainstay in the industry now, like, you're not going to lose that building or anything. You guys good to go on that end?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, god damn, knock on wood. But the last, like, that Fear Experience building was a very weird, unique situation where like I said, it was a surprise, but absolutely should not have been. Like, we knew, like, the deal was a month-to-month lease, and then we did have a first right of refusal if, like, we wanted to buy the building, but I didn't have, like, I think it literally went for like $4 or $5 million because it was 120,000 square feet and it was on like 10 acres. So, like, we knew that was gonna be, like, the day that comes. We just figured, hey, finding a 120,000 square foot building for, you know, next to nothing for rent wasn't so hard. So, like, let's do it again. Well, that was in 2010, which was like after, like, a financial crisis, and, like, the entire real estate market crashed. And then at that time it was 2015, which is, like, as good as it had been for, you know, 5 whatever years.
Right.
So, but that was it. It was a year-to-year lease. Current one, we have, like, a 10-year lease.
There you go.
But, like, fuck, if anything happened, like, you gotta just roll with it. Like, we've actually been keeping that in the back of our mind that, like, if anything were to happen, like, what's the plan? Like, make sure there's money set aside for a move. Make sure that happens. Like, we're very, very prepared because we, like, try to be as much as you can be for things like that. Because seeing it happen, I'm like, I can't go through that again. That was devastating.
No.
Yeah, I bet, man. I bet it was. I remember when we went from the one we were at to here, you know, it was a totally different ball game, but it was just like, you know, after the first year, I was like, man, I kind of wish I was doing the old one again. You know what I mean? Because it was just way more relaxed and everything, but losing it all together, that'd be tough. That'd be tough to go through. And then, you know, to have to do it again. And your location now is pretty good.
Yeah, it's good in terms of, like, geographics and everything. I have no complaints. But I guess the only complaint would be, like, sometimes you get people that are like, oh, the vibe's a little off because there's, like, a plasma donation center next door. And then, not necessarily that, but it's like, this is so cool, but until we got inside, like, that was, no offense, but that was not what we were expecting. And I was like, I get it. Yeah. But the plus side is all the parking we could ask for. The parking lot becomes a big festival party thing now. I mean, there's really nothing that every building we look at, I'm like, cool, but we're gonna lose this and that. Like, it really is, like, the perfect place for us right now.
Well, and I think now, like when we were talking earlier about just how many, you know, from, you know, haunted attractions like yours to a corn maze or a trail in the woods, there's so many now that I think it's relevant. Your venue is relevant, or your location or whatever. Yeah. But as long as you deliver, which you guys do, I don't think people really are going to see that, because I've never heard anybody talk really about that. And when we came down, it was like we didn't think, it's, you know, just didn't think of it that way. You know what I mean? Because we knew what we were going to. Yeah. You know, and it's not like you can buy an old abandoned house. Yeah. And, you know, put some props in it and let people walk through.
It was just I wouldn't even say it was an issue, but it was like pretty much like just talked about like the first year. And then once the reputation was there, like now it's like it's not even mentioned. Like you're so immersed, like even when you're like outside with everything, that we've gotten it to the point where it's not an issue. But that's just me being like, if I really had to be devil's advocate, that's the only thing. And if that's the worst of it, but the customer experience is perfect beyond that, then who cares?
No worries. Yeah, no one cares about that. I don't anyways, you got to.
Yeah.
You have to. You know what I mean? The Fear Experience, what kind of a building was that in? Because I never got to go.
A big one.
It was a Value City, a normal Value City, and it was 120,000 square feet.
Yeah.
But we used more square footage in this place than we had in Haunt at the old one. So it's more Haunt, more walkthrough at this one, and the good part about the old, Fear Experience is like you've got unlimited room to like work, but the customer experience really wasn't any different. Like you had less haunted house, and like it was temporary. So it was, now that with how we've gotten like Fear Columbus, it's a better product than Fear Experience was, and it's most mature year by far. But Fear Experience was a really cool like thing because it was all indoor waiting, and it was like just so big on the inside that like you're walking in and you're like totally immersed from the second you're buying a ticket, and then you're going into the other thing. So it was a really, really neat building that, I would never turn down a building like that again if we ever had the opportunity. But I guess just comparing the two of the haunts and whatever, it was like we've made way better use of this building than, because we just have it. It's actually like a lease. I'm not going to spend all that money in a place that I'm going to be out of in, a couple of years.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about the name, Fear Experience. I loved that name. I thought that was a great name for a haunted attraction. That was one thing that like here, like the first year that when Kurtzman was still kind of running things here, it was called Paranormal Penitentiary.
Yeah.
I hated that name. I told him that straight. I'm like, dude, this is the stupidest name ever. And sorry if you're listening, dude, but it's like, this name sucks. It's too long. It makes me think of ghost hunting. So did you, like with Fear Experience, I mean, just out of curiosity more than anything, how come you didn't like bring that to Columbus? Did you just want to like, we're wiping the slate clean, fresh start? Or, was that the thought process? Or did you want to make it a regional thing?
I think like, you want to go?
Well, you can go.
I think like with Nick and I running this together, we kind of like back in Cleveland, he ran it with Max, and that was like kind of their thing there. And then when Nick and I went into this together, we kind of wanted something that like I guess honored the old name and kind of like connected the two, which is obviously where Fear comes through, but it also, we wanted it to be kind of unique to us, and we wanted something that like if the attractions inside changed, then the name would still make sense. So, it's kind of like what you're saying with the Paranormal Penitentiary. It's like ghosts, like that's what you think of. And, and Fear is kind of like all encompassing, you know? So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I mean, I think we didn't want people to think it was going to be the same thing, just moved.
Yeah.
And because it was completely, it's completely different.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to go way more into like the city aspect and like talking about like Columbus, and it's a very simple name. I'm not trying to make it sound like it was this big fucking thing, but like we definitely wanted to go very classic Halloween with everything, very classic, like just vague and generic a little bit, but also making sure that the city was in it. Doing like marketing and stuff for long enough, we've noticed that like haunts that have the city name in them tend to, I don't say do better because it's hard to ever say, but tend to maybe do a little bit better, have a little bit better response. So we wanted to try that. And then, we just didn't want people to think it was the same thing. And then also it was like a business that I had, with Max, and him not being involved with this one, like it's kind of be a little bit of a shitty move to, I don't even know if I would be allowed to at the time take the name, as it was a different business. So
yeah. And that makes sense. I just always loved that name.
That's a great name.
It is. I mean, it's because I think that's a lot of the hard part about doing something like what we do is finding that name.
Yeah.
And it seems like, maybe simplicity might be the way to go because with the marketing on the internet and everything. So it's like, dude, you got to be able to find it.
Yeah.
And that's what I always said with the old name. Just when you said it, you're like, paranormal pen. I'm like,
Yep.
that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
It's like you can barely say it,
Yeah.
let alone. Now, I can spell penitentiary without even thinking now because
Oh,
I had to
yeah.
sit there and type it so much. But it was like, who's going to find that on the internet?
Yeah.
And it was like, so when we came up with Blood Prison, I didn't even like that. I'm not a big fan of the name, but I kind of got, talked into it because it was like, dude, it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
It's a prison. It's simple.
great name.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, it just doesn't roll like Fear Experience. I was just like, dude, that just rolls right off your tongue, man.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So that for me was like one of the hardest parts about, doing this was like, what are we going to call it?
I think it was funny too when Nick and I were talking. I mean, we were kicking around a bunch of different names because we wanted it to be all encompassing. We wanted it to kind of cover like whatever themes we had inside, like it would, fit.
Mm-hmm.
And there were like a bunch. There was just so much back and forth. And there was one point where we were kind of just like coming to a head of like, what's this name going to be? And Nick just kept saying, Fear Columbus, Fear, like, and that was the name that I was kind of pushing forward. He's like, I don't know about this because like, and we're weighing all the options, and he kept calling it Fear Columbus, and then at one point in the conversation, he just stopped and he's like, well, fuck, like, I keep calling it Fear Columbus, so, like, that's gotta be the name. Like,
Yeah.
I keep saying it, it's just, like, it kind of stuck, but that was, like, one of those kind of, like, funny moments of just, like, what's it gonna be? And we kept, like, almost like a Freudian slip kind of thing of just, like, we
Yeah.
kept saying it, and we're like, oh,
Yeah, it was
that's
like,
a name.
what are we going to call Fear Columbus? And then we're like, okay. Like, yeah. It's not, personally, I didn't love the name. I don't think anybody heard it and was like, oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
But we heard it and we're like, okay. And then we got like a logo made and like, we're like, oh, fuck, that's going to sell some tickets. Like,
Yeah.
you put it all together and it works.
Sure.
It works really well. And I think like, as much as I really, really stress about like names and have spent way too much time in my life worrying about business names and different things I've done, like this one, like Jess said, we got to the point where like this can't actually matter that much. And then now we look at it, we're like, okay, well, like this attendance in 2 years is like destroyed what Fear Experience ever did in like 5. So like clearly
Right.
we're doing something right where we're like focusing more on enough other things that maybe the name isn't the sexiest thing in the world, but like it gets the point across and
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
show up. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was when we first came over here. I can't remember what we were going to call it before Paranormal Penitentiary. I can't remember. I liked it better than Paranormal Penitentiary for sure. But there was a haunt in Texas already called that. And we couldn't get the website. We couldn't get that. You know what I mean? And when he came up with that name, it was like, well, there's not going to be a problem getting the website for that fucking thing. I guarantee you that. But even Blood Prison, when we look that up, there's actually a, I want to say it's a Japanese anime cartoon called Blood Prison.
What the hell?
Yeah, but there's no like copyright on it or anything, so we were
Yeah.
able to use it. But I was just like, so I'm looking it up, I'm like, son of a bitch. Well, we can't use that name. It's not really owned by anything. The website's available, but
Yeah.
I've never watched it. But
That's funny.
it's a Japanese. I'm like, what the hell is this? It got me curious. No, that for sure. But
Yeah.
that was always the not really fun and frustrating part. Because like to me, I want it to be like, look at this building we're in, man. This has really got to be like something just
Yeah.
And they're like Blood Prison. I was just like,
I think sometimes names like we overthink them because it's like
For sure.
Think about this, Dave. Like that's so cool. I'm like, is Apple really a cool brand name? No, it's a fucking fruit.
yeah, exactly.
Like-
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But after you spend $40 billion on advertising
Yeah.
a year, like you're like, oh, I love that. It's like, why? Because you hear it 4,000 times.
Yeah.
Like just a lot of like why we appreciate different brands has to do with just hearing them since
Yeah.
we were 1 year old. So like, I don't know. I try not to overthink it, but I have definitely overthought
Yeah.
every name I've come up with.
So have I.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. But it makes sense though because I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah.
Well, Apple. I'm like, yeah. What?
Yeah.
It's just what it was. It was just
Yeah.
Apple. Okay. I got 2 of them in there.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
there you go.
There's always like the creators have like sense to it, like they've got their reasons for it, but the average customer like hears it and they're like, oh, that means computers and stuff. And you're like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's because they told you it does. Like,
right.
So
an apple's an apple, man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a laptop. Well, it is, but
Right.
That's good stuff. So, I've noticed on your on your Instagram and your social media, like Jess, I'm pretty sure that was you. Like when you go to your Instagram page and you can see that one image. Do you like getting involved in all that as far as like the imagery and the shooting the videos and stuff like that?
Yeah. So like I said, when I started working for Nick, I was an actor. I did like high school theater, nothing serious, but I always liked acting. So, and film and all that kind of jazz. So, I kind of like when I was younger, I was like, I'm going to be an actress, and, didn't really pan out. Thankful it didn't. But, yeah, for like the commercials and the creative, I mean, Nick, like, also is amazing at that kind of stuff. Like, this man can edit a video like I have never seen. But yeah, I do like being involved in like the video shoots. Like, that's fun for me. I don't get to really get in costume anymore during the season because I'm doing like the big boss stuff. But, so that's like kind of a fun way for me to get involved and, be on the creative side of that. Yeah.
What was your favorite character that you ever played?
Oh, My Little Puppet.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Let's hear about that one.
So I think, man, this was maybe like the last year or like the second to last year of Fear Experience. And I somehow finagled my way into Q Line. Had nothing to do with that I was dating Nick, but but I was
scratch that next question then.
Like,
right.
If you thought I was stopping at Q Line, I own a haunted house now, so
it worked.
There we go.
Yeah. But I've always been into like the character development, the scene development. Like I love the whole storytelling. Like I've always just been kind of into like, the backstories of stuff. So this character was like the first one that I was like, freshly a little baby boo, and it was like the first one that I got to create, and someone was like, yeah, like go ahead and do that. So I think I showed up like that night and was like, it would be so fun to do like a little marionette, and like you could hand like the little thing to customers and they can make you dance and like whatever. And I walked in and I think one of our maintenance guys like found 2 like boards in the back and just screwed them together and put some like chains on them, or like I think it was like a rubber string that night or something. And I went out in the queue line and handed my little, I don't even know what that thing's called, but the little wooden thing to people, and they were like loving it, and it was super interactive. And of course, like you had those fun customers that were like, oh, I bet I can make you do this and stuff, like whatever. But that was like really like the first character I think that I like created, and it was so interactive, and it was like really well received, and it made me feel cool. So I still to this day like have that character. We actually implemented her. Our friend G, who was the other person you saw on the billboard, she was the candelabra lady this year.
Yeah.
Incredibly talented, love her. So she typically, what she does is she does all the characters that I do in the commercials. I kind of just like hand those off to her.
Right.
So this year for Krampus, what we did is we actually implemented the puppet into like one of the toys as one of the icon characters. So G got to play my puppet this year, and she used the same little like 2 planks of wood from Fear Experience that got screwed together that night, and it's very, very nostalgic. So
no kidding.
Yeah. And it's so fun because, like, it can dance, it's interactive, like, customers can kind of, like, touch you without touching you and, like, away, and, yeah, it's, like, I'm proud of it. I don't care.
What about you, Nick? What about you? What are some of your characters you played?
I don't remember any that I played.
The clown?
Yeah, I don't remember.
So you said you were a clown.
I don't know if that was a character, per se. That was me grabbing whatever was left over when we opened. But no, I don't play anything necessarily. I will do the same thing. Like if I'm gonna act, I'll go in and just be like, okay, what's left over? What do we have?
Yeah.
Or I'll find like something I like the Global Fear Enterprise suits that nobody wants to wear because they suck to wear. Like they don't, in my opinion. I love them, but they look absolutely incredible. I'll try and put one of those on because I'm small and they fit me great.
Yeah.
So that's always super fun. But yeah, I do it more. Like, I definitely try and get out more, but I don't know. I like other parts of the business now that are just as fun to me as running around. So,
well, I never, and that was, a lot of people are, surprised, I guess, but I never really did that, like going in, because before at the old haunt, I would run the ticket booth and I would do the like advertising, because I used to work in radio. So Bob would call me up and be like, hey, we're going to do this. I need to get ads out there. I'm like, okay. So I would do all that. And then during the season, it would be just like nightly walkthroughs, and I'd report back to him, hey, yeah, it's going good. Everybody's cool. Everybody's, doing what they're supposed to. Okay. And that's really, as far as it went. And then I would jump in behind like the animatronic puppets and stuff like that, and just do that kind of stuff just to be fun. I did do a night this year where I threw a jumpsuit on and put this half mask on and went out there and got a new appreciation for actors, because it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was beat the hell up after, and it was like the last night of the season.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
They're in the trenches.
Oh yeah, they're definitely. So I got a new respect for them.
Yeah.
But there's so many cool things out there, like, for instance, and I don't know if you guys have this struggle, but like we have a lot of silicone masks. I'm like, these are awesome. You got to wear these. And it was like, I'm not wearing that.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on. These are great. Do you guys have that issue, or are you guys straight makeup, or?
No, we actually, I would say like 95% of our staff wears some sort of mask. We have implemented a lot of half masks. That seems to work best for us just because they're the easiest to wear, easiest to switch out. We do have silicones, and we have a few actors that really, they have no issue wearing them.
Yeah, there's always a couple.
I think like in areas where actors are like moving a lot more, like the silicones do kind of suck, but I think the way that we've kind of implemented it is we have some very like poignant scenes throughout the attraction, and those are the ones that we're like, okay, like this is like the big budget, like you're in this whole crazy like light show and just like spotlights on you. So those are usually the characters that I'm like, okay, you get a silicone mask, and the actor that's playing that part is like cool. But overall, like generally it's just been a lot of like the wording. I think, the silicone masks, I feel people just like see them and they're just like, that's heavy, that's hot, that's uncomfortable, like that sucks. But like,
it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. And like, if you're wearing them the right way, and you kind of also have to work with your staff to be like, hey, if you're in this scene where you're just like running around all night and already going to be sweaty, like I'm not going to put a silicone mask on top of that. So it's just been kind of like a flexibility with us too, of being like, okay, these are the scenes that we want these in, they're going to be showcased more, and then everybody else can kind of get a half mask. And it's just helped with like makeup, like, gets people done quicker. A lot of people are actually really growing to like love the masks now, because they just have to come in, put on a mask. They don't have to wipe everything off at the end of the night.
Right, yeah.
And then the people that do get makeup, it gives our makeup artists like more of an opportunity to like, go in on the full faces and not just have to like rush on every single person. So,
right.
But yeah, we've definitely like COVID, we did a lot of masks and people were like not really into them, because also they were wearing them on top of their masks and it just sucked. Like, I totally get it. But I think, like, in the past couple of years, like, we've just really worked our way up, and almost everybody wears a mask for every single event now, so.
That's really cool, though, because, I have a ton of masks. We have a lot of people that wear them, too, but, we do a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
But when I did that one night, I was like, I want a mask, because I'm not, an actor, so I'm like, I got to be hidden.
Yeah.
I feel exposed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just put a half mask, latex half mask, just tied it on, and I was like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep. So it makes sense to do that. And I actually bought one of the silicone half masks this year just to try it out.
Yeah.
Where it looks like it's like a hood.
Yeah.
And then it's just got like and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Just killer looking masks. They're just so beautiful. It's so hard not to use them or not want to use them. The one girl came in, one of my costume people came in yesterday, and they thought it was funny, because I have a thing in the haunts, like, nobody's ever scared me. So it's like, you guys really gotta work on that. But I've been scared many times. The girl walks in and she was wearing one of our immortal, it was like this alien mask that's got like all this exposed teeth right there.
Yeah.
And my the acting manager, she's like, Vic, we got to show you something. I was like, and I was at my desk, I'm like, Jesus, like that. And I turned around and she was wearing this mask that we had, the silicone mask. And she's like, I want to wear this for the season. I'm like, you do really? And she was like, yeah, because we got these liners that we got from, I think, Madness Effects.
Yeah.
That you put in the mask, and so it's not just silicone on skin.
Yeah.
And that seemed to, she was like, this is actually not that bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll let you wear it, for a night, and we'll go from there, But I was just like, man, it looks so good. And when she would talk, the mouth movement was just beautiful, I'm like, God, we got to wear these more often,
Yeah. We have an actor who actually, she took, like, paper towels and just would, like, line kind of, like, her forehead and, like, around her neck and stuff with them, and use those to, like, kind of catch the sweat.
Yeah.
And she'll come in and she's like, I want that silicone mask. Like, she will wear any silicone.
That's awesome.
So, and I think, again, it does, like, I think actors, like, they kind of see, they're like, oh, a mask isn't, like, as exciting or whatever, or it's, like, heavy or uncomfortable. But I think, like, the more that our actors have worn them, the more they're like, oh, like, I look awesome. I don't have to, like, sit in a makeup chair for 30 minutes, like, and wash all that stuff off my face at the end of the night. It's convenient. Like, if one mask doesn't fit them correctly, like, they just swap it out for another one. Like, so I think the fondness of masks, like, again, not everyone likes to wear them. I totally get that. But I think, like, overall, our staff has been, like, pretty, like, they've responded pretty positively to, like, that change. And once they see, like, the pictures and, all that stuff, they're like, wow, I want to wear, like, we've had people now fighting for masks, like, or they're like, they come in and they're like, I want this mask. Like, there are people, like, claiming their masks now, like, which has been really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's neat.
That's
and
cool.
then, like, once photos come out, they're like, oh, that's a recognizable character. And, like, if I have that mask, like, I'm that recognizable character. So, like, that's another, benefit to it. And then you're not doing as much makeup, which, there are some haunts that implement makeup really, really well. There are some that it's like, it doesn't really translate sometimes. And just, like, the size of our staff, we have, like, 60, 65 actors a night. So we need to, like, move. So getting the masks and everything just helps move things right along. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's with anything that we've done that actors and staff have been maybe a little unsure of at the beginning. Like, we have a crazy amount of, like, speaker scare type, stuff where they're hitting a pedal and it's making the noise and the lights, whatever. At the beginning, it's like they're not a huge fan of it. And then very, very quickly, it's like, yeah, but I get to watch every single group, like, jump and be scared by it. And, like, you understand it very, very quickly. And they've been really cool about, giving it everything a chance. And then once they see it working, they're like, oh, okay, great. Like, and that's, like, what I see with masks is, there's tons of places where, like, makeup has, like, been a little bit of a better like tool for the job, like Q-line or whatever might be better so you can talk or whatever. Right. But when you're in, like, that dark environment, a lot of times that customer's, like, looking, getting a glance, and all they really saw when you see, like, your awesome makeup in the makeup chair, what they saw is, like, that kid have anything on his face? Like, why is that child, like, standing there? Like, that's what I look like when I wear makeup. Like, I just look like there's a fucking kid in the haunt. Like, and so you need to deform the actual features of the face and make it more of, like, a creature or something to where your mind, when you're walking through as a customer, can't really comprehend what just came at you between the audio, the lighting, and then you have this creature thing, like, coming at you. Totally different than a theatrical, like, actor trying to pop out and play something, because it can be cool, but 99% of the time it just looks like somebody that barely has makeup on. When you add dark lighting and then some dark grease paint, it doesn't register as well. So
and that's always the hard part. Because I vend, like, at Trans World, I'll vend there, and obviously I'm buying stuff for here. But and it's to make people. The first time I went to Trans World, it was, I think, 2010. From then until now, it's so different.
Sure.
It's like, I was trying to explain to somebody, I was like, listen, I hate the excuse, I guess is what I'm getting at, is I hate the excuse people say, well, it's at a haunt, it'll be dark. And I'm just like, no, but it won't be at Trans World.
Yeah.
So, like, when you go in and you see, like, all those silicone masks and they're all lined in a row and they're just beaming gorgeous.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh man. So you go and check those out, and you're just inspecting every little thing.
Yeah.
And then when you get back to the hunt, you're like, shit, I gotta light this room a little better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're buying all this really cool shit for your show, And now you want people to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least that's the way I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, like, you know, it's kind of like what you're saying is like the scenes with the silicone and you have the more details, like those scenes tend to be more well lit. Even if the actor is in a speaker scare, there is like a brighter light that shines for like a longer period of time. And, you know, you do want to showcase that stuff because it's cool. But I mean, everybody else can have a half mask because they're popping out, popping back in, and people are like, wow, that was freaky. And, you know.
That's what's good about the speaker scare stuff when it's all synced. Like, that room could be dark and ominous and creepy, but then when the actor comes out, like, there's literally, like, a spotlight on them, or it's something that, you know, like, we have a couple, like, demon masks that have, like, black light, like, eyes and different stuff on it, and so when they pop out, instead of just having a black light in the room, it's, like, only when that actor pops out, then the black light comes on just on them. So it's really, like, simple stuff, but it allows you to kind of like really accent every single actor and not have to like make your, you know, haunt as bright as you possibly, you know, can. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, you know, how different it is if you go from place to place. Where I went to a haunt down in Mississippi and we went there and it was on like a haunt tour. Okay, it was the only haunt, actually, but it was at a convention, and you go over there, and they were the only one open, so we went to it, and I'm like, oh, this will be cool, and we got in, and it was like we're going through, and it's like, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, I know this is going to be cool, but I just can't see anything.
Yeah.
You know, and there was a lot of jump scares or whatnot, but then after everyone went through the attraction, then they did a lights on tour.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they turned the lights on. I was just like, this is amazing. Why you should run your show like this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the lights on. I mean, it was just so dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think, you know, how it's changed so much over in the industry from, you know, well, just dark rooms and dark mazes, you know, to now everybody's, you know, it's got to be Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's got to be like you're in this movie, you know? And it's just, you know, pros and cons with that because like Solitary here is dark. We don't do a lot there. It's just keep it dark.
Yeah.
You know, we have a light by the door so you can see the door, but then it's just jump scares in between.
Yeah.
And it works great, you know, but then everywhere else you just try to make it look, you know, like you're in this apocalyptic, you know, wasteland or whatever. It's just amazing how that's changed.
Yeah.
You know, from, you know, the early days. Like the first haunt I ever went to was a guy in his woods. You know what I mean? It was just in a woods at a party that my parents would go to or my dad would go to. And then there was a guy that would jump out of a tree with a chainsaw. And it was like, I remember legit being like, we're going to die.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that fear's gone now, so.
Yeah.
I think it's about the dynamic. Like for us, without getting on a lighting tangent, like we've learned that it's like dynamic, like animated lighting. Again, then without making it feel like you're watching a light show when you're going through the haunt. But, you know, we can... Like, our alley was the hardest thing to light because it's just this giant scene, and then we've tried lighting it really dark and creepy, and, like, where it's just, like, the cop car's lights are on, and that was like, ooh, that's cool. And then you realize, like, you can't see the signs on the building and whatever. So you get to the point where you're like, okay, well, then we're going to make this, you know, dynamic and animated to where, you know, this building gets lit up for a little bit, and then like over here, then this kind of comes on, and then like the car's lights flash and accent this. So everything gets illuminated, but it's not illuminated at the same time. And that's been like, I think one of the best tricks for us is just making everything little pieces that get illuminated at once without making it feel weird and like, why is that on? And then this is on, like, try and make it like flow. And then you layer on top of that the sound scares illuminating the actors just when they, you know, are popping out and scaring you or whatever.
Yeah.
It all comes together pretty nice. And then you've got a couple hallways. Like the last part of our first haunt is very dark and creepy and very simple. It's one of people's favorite things. So, you know, it's not awful to have one or the other. It's just, I think you got to have a little bit of everything.
Right. Good mix.
Yeah.
A good mix for sure. And I think that some of that can, you know, get, I don't know, say lost in your theming, you know, because I get that a lot too, is like, you know, well, you're a prison. So like a lot of, like one guy asked me, why do you have all that stuff in your cell blocks? I'm like, what do you mean? You know, it's just like, it should just be them. And I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
I can't do that. You know what I mean? It's just like, you want them just to be empty? Yeah, man, just prisoners running around everywhere. I'm just like, nah, it doesn't work that way, man. You got to do something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what we've tried to do here, is make it, the cell more than just a jail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still a prison, so we try to theme it. Where do you guys fit on that as far as like, me and the crew, like we'll talk, like I've got people that'll sit there and go, that doesn't make sense, man.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, what the hell makes sense? There's a house up there.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Well, yeah, but so where do you guys fit on that? I mean, do you want the people to be in a story when they get there, or are you just more like, let's scare the shit out of them and have some really cool, sets? I mean, where do you lie on that?
I think kind of in the middle. I mean, we're lucky in the fact that we're just a building. We can theme whatever our attractions however we want. The two attractions we have right now don't really necessarily flow together. Like, they're not the same thing. We want it to very much feel like separate entities from each other.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, our first attraction, I mean, that's more of just, like, a single theme of, like, you're in, like, a cult house kind of ordeal. And then, like, once you get halfway through, you're in, like, the creature's lair, and you've, like, passed over into, like, this other portal kind of thing. And so everybody in there is, like, a creature, and then everybody before that is in, like, a red cape, a matching mask, like, very much like we are in a cult. Like, that's what the story is with that. The second house is a little more chaotic just because it's, like, a city. So, like, you go into a lot of different things in this one attraction. So, like, you start off in a diner, and then you're in this crazy alley that's, like, chaos everywhere and just, sirens, whatever. And then you have, like, this whole section that's just asylum. Like, you're in an asylum, then you're back out into the alley, then it's, like, convenience store, butcher shop, like, tattoo shop, like, so there's just, and then, like, you end in, like, a greenhouse on a swamp. So there's just, like, a lot going on in that house, which is, but it's still kind of at the end of the day flows together because you're in a city. So you can, go into a bunch of different shops and experiences kind of in this one house. And I think, like, that's something I really like about the second house is that there's just so much more going on. Like, the first house, love that place. Like, that was something that I was really excited to see come to life. The second house, I'm excited to kind of finally put our own little twist on it and keep it like that chaotic thing and, keep it interesting, have a few different things going on, but still kind of have it flow together as long as you're, like, in that house.
Yeah. I think the the second house is definitely a little more, like, fun, I guess, in terms of, like, there's more creative freedom. But then at the same time, something like a first house, like, we call it the first second. Like, the Aftermath is our second house, and then, which is like our post-apocalyptic, and then the Summoning is the first one, which is your very kind of more of a strict one singular storyline. And sometimes that's more fun because you can just, like, keep diving deeper and deeper into one thing and then evolve on a singular, like, plot. And that's kind of, like, more fun than, like, okay, how do we tie in, like, a convenience store into this and make it post-apocalyptic, like, which is a bad example because it's in every post-apocalyptic movie. But, but what I like to do, like, as a general kind of, like, rule is that whatever is the most fun, coolest thing for the customer, meaning, like, if we've got to deviate from the storyline and that means that an actor gets to jump out on a bungee line or something, like, then I don't really care. Like, I'm not going to tell a customer, even though you're not going to actually say this, you're really kind of telling a customer, like, yeah, there's all this really cool stuff that we could have done, but it didn't fit with the story. So we hope you liked this very realistic, haunt. It's like, well, what's realistic? Because if you go realistic, the more realistic you go, the more boring it is. Like, I've seen even something as simple as, like, our kitchen in the first haunt is, like, very, like, weird because it's, like, designed where, like, the cabinets are, like, way too tall and they're not really realistic, but it visually is, like, way more interesting than, like, just building a kitchen. And you start to go down that logic train of, like, okay, the most realistic stuff is the most boring stuff. Still needs to make cohesive sense, but, like, most of the time, like, the more off the wall you get, the more fun it is and the more entertaining it is for the customer. And then you use those themes as guides and as tools to make things better. You don't use them as constraints to, like, make things like, it's a hospital, so it has to be like this. It's like, it's a hospital. So like when you're thinking about what you could put on like the walls in this hallway, that's what it's for. It's not for like, so it can't have this in it. It needs to be so it gets to have these things in it. But I think that's actually like Ben Armstrong was like somebody that said that to me. That's like, it needs to be whatever makes like the most entertaining thing for the customer. And it can't, your theming and your how realistic something is you go way too down that rabbit hole and you're going to end up with something that's not interesting at all.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And I'm kind of with you guys on that too, because, like we have the one side of the cell block, like we have the 2 cell blocks. So we kind of do 2, like on each side, something different, so the one cell block we have our clown area right there, and it's a whole side of a cell block. And I've gotten that, not from the customers, which is kind of my, reason for keeping it, but I get a lot of people within the industry, people we know, that say, what the hell do you got clowns in there for? Jesus, get rid of them, and I'm just like, why? Because if I don't, then I've got a lot of people going, dude, what happened to all the clowns? Where are they at? My wife's scared of them, or my kid's just there for, and I'm like, it's what the customer wants. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big clown guy. I don't have a phobia of clowns. I'm not afraid of clowns, but people love them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So does it make sense to have clowns in prison? Not really, but we can make it make sense if you want us to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what we kind of, try to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is just to make it work, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, you could definitely make that storyline make sense of like these different things are coming like into the prison, whatever. You could make it make sense, or
you can,
there is a enormous amount of things that we do that like industry or like haunt like people and like actors and different people that are in the industry think is like really dumb and like they don't like, and that they think that their way is best. And I'm like, I don't care what I like at all. Like what I like and what's in our haunt are not really that close together. Like it's not what I like. It's the fact that like when we do it this way, we get better and better and better, reviews and customer satisfaction. And I think the problem with smaller haunts, I'm trying to say this very politely because it is meant to be polite, smaller haunts and people that are kind of like very dead set on like old school ways of thinking, they're not realizing that the customers that they're drawing is a much smaller audience than like a big haunt that's drawing, a ton of people. And so that small group of people is telling them, oh my God, I'm so glad you do it this way, because like that's, I'm glad haunts are doing it that way still. Like I'm glad it's all dialogue and it's all this and it's all theatrical, but you're not growing because the 99% of the people that would love to come to your haunt, you're not appealing to them.
Right.
And that's okay if that's okay with you. But like, if you want to appeal to the masses, you have to do a little bit of everything, and you've got to do things in a different way, because that's such a small like group of people that like it, that kind of more old school way. Right. And that's who you're talking to. You're standing at the exit, you're talking to customers, you're like, everybody loves this. They love this. It's like, right. Everybody loved my backyard haunted house. Like everybody, as in like my friends and my neighbors. Everybody loved my charity haunt, because who comes to charity haunts is not, the average Joe. It's people that want to support something and like just want to have fun. Very chill, very very different expectations. It's almost like our Krampus haunt. Like those people are coming and like they love no matter what we do. Different stuff to them like blows them away. And then like the haunt people come and they're like, I don't like that or whatever. It's like, okay. So who you're appealing to and who you're listening to, like I do not care at all like what haunt owners and haunters and like actors think about our haunt, because the fact that they don't like, I mean, I'm not saying like they don't, but the fact that some of them don't is like, cool. Well, like maybe you should listen to your customers a little bit more. Right. Yeah. Because like they're telling you by not coming back, they're telling you. Maybe they told you it was great, but have they been back and like, whatever? Did they leave the review you asked them to? Like maybe they didn't like it as much as, you think they like it, And so do a little bit more stuff that's going to appeal to the younger demographic, to the modern, demographic that wants those things. So it's there's a lot to it, but that's definitely like...
Yeah. And those people that leave the reviews, I mean, it's just like you just comb through them, and there's some that's like there's nothing I'm going to be able to do for this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I 100% agree with you that it's like your customers are I guess you could say your designers. This is what they want.
Yeah.
Give it to them. You know what I mean? Now, a haunt from another haunt actor from another haunt. You see what I'm saying? It's just like, well, they'll come in and be critical or whatever. And
Right.
I did it this way. It's like, yeah, but it's not about you or that reviewer. And that's the other thing. Is it me or is there like now 9,000 review teams that want to come every year and it's like, hey man, give me tickets and I want to review your haunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Send them the link
that's
to buy those tickets.
yeah.
Oh, we do not give free tickets to anybody.
Yeah.
Not one person.
Yeah.
Like, I the only person I'll give them to is my parents and Jess's parents, and they both beat us to it and like go and buy tickets. Like we have to literally like refund their money because otherwise like they won't, like we're not taking their money.
Yeah.
But like sometimes we let them buy because like otherwise it's a fight. But whatever, it's beyond the point. But the review people that come out, 99. I wouldn't even say 99. Like we haven't had one bad one yet.
Yeah.
But they will come out and ask for, free tickets or whatever. And 99% of the time, though, they're just asking. And so, like, they ask. Haunt owners get really, butthurt about it. And I'm like, I get it. But at the same time, like, their mentality is just, like, it doesn't hurt if you don't, you can't say no if I don't ask or whatever. Like, they're just asking to see. And then they're going to go to 40 haunts. Like, yeah, it's a lot of money. But, like, also, you got to go to 40 haunts. So, like, I didn't ask you to write something. So, like, and also, I know how that review is going to go. It's going to be a bunch of good stuff. Yeah. Some completely unwarranted, like, constructive criticism that you had to pull out of nowhere. Yeah. Because, like, the haunt you came from is, like, 12 square feet. And then you come to us and somehow you still have constructive criticism, which is, like, fine, but then like evenly distribute it. And then you're saying that, but the average customer they're not reading it. No. And so absolutely not. It's so like, great, come on out. They again, I would be careful because like nobody's really said anything negative about us. And so like it's been super great, but like nobody knows you. So like whoever you're talking to is like other haunt people. Mm-hmm. And then to the last like thing we were talking about, like that's not who we're appealing to. So like, what's the point of all of it? I don't know. Kind of fun. Like we had like it's fun for like our staff because those reviews honestly are like the only ones that like dive in. Like we just had somebody, I think it was the haunt. I'm butchering the name. It'd be called like the Haunt Finder General, and he did this review on our Krampus event, and literally some people on our team like cried because it was
included me.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
Yeah, because it was so in depth, and it was like one of the first times you got to see an outside person come to the haunt and appreciate all of the little like details that you do and like everything, and it was amazing. So it doesn't hurt anything, but no, you're not getting free tickets because like what's the trade-off? You're going to say some good and some bad things about us, like, and try and make it unbiased and like, even, but that doesn't mean make up shit to like act like, oh, it could be better here. It's like the other thing that I like noticed without ranting is like, I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I can't stand when the review people make stuff up. And meaning like we had somebody say, I showed up at like 10 o'clock, everything was amazing, but I'm sure it wasn't as good at 11:30 when everybody's tired and whatever. And I'm like, you just made some shit up because you ran out of constructive things to say. So you're like, yeah, like I'm sure it wouldn't be as good later. So like I'd buy an earlier time slot. I'm like, you're making stuff up. That's not journalism. That's not unbiased, like reviewing. Like you're making up a random opinion. And so like, that's no longer a review. That's you just like making wild accusations. And then it'll say things like, what we do sometimes, like in the past, we don't do it anymore, but sometimes we've like let them like skip the line at least. You buy a ticket, but hey, you want to go to other haunts tonight, you got tickets to them. Okay, like we'll let you, do fast pass.
Right.
And so they'll look at the line and just say, wow, like, and in the review, had to be at least a 3-hour wait tonight. That was crazy. And I'm like, why wouldn't you ask me?
Yeah.
Like, and it's just so many assumptions. There had to be 60, actors, or like, I wonder if there was all these spots where like there wasn't an actor and it looked like there was supposed to be. And I'm wondering if they had a lot of people out sick that night. I'm like, dude, just talk. Don't make shit up. Like,
find out.
Yeah. Like any other, thing, like you're going to interview the business owner and you're going to talk, and 99% of those, they would find out like, hey, like there's a wheelchair going through right now. So we're leaving some extra space. Customer in a wheelchair. That sounded awful. There's a customer in a wheelchair going through right now. So we leave a little extra space, and that's why the line's like paused. So like, don't go tell everybody that our line's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Like, so I think if they're going to come out, like just talk to us afterwards and do a little Q&A, and I think that would clear up everything.
Yeah.
It would. And some of them, I've had some come here that 90% of them always like send me a message. Hey, we're going to come out. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. But there's some that won't even do that. They'll just show up, and next thing you know, I'll get tagged, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, we got reviewed. Yep. You know what I mean? But honestly, and I'm not just talking haunted attractions or anything like that. I hate reviews. Yeah. I don't leave reviews. Just because like I've went to like so many places where it's like, this place is amazing, and I'm like, wasn't really that. And I'm not talking haunted attraction. I mean anything from restaurants to whatever it may be, movie theaters, or vice versa, where I'm just, everyone's like, don't go, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm I can figure that out on my own, thanks.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like about reviews, because I'm like, man, I've seen so many things that I thought was great that, got bad reviews. And if I would have listened to reviews, I would have never got to, do that thing. But it's almost, it's a necessary thing, I suppose, that you have to do. You know what I mean? But like, I just hate, like from the old days, that's why I'll never go back to the ticketing, the time ticketing. I'll stay with that.
Yeah.
Because that was a lot of my bad reviews was, well, I had to wait 3.5 hours. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? And they give me a 2-star review, and it's just like, God damn, and you can't change that.
Yeah.
You can't just take it away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just one of those things that gets me. You know what I mean? That, you're just like, it's not my fault, man. This is, it's like, what do you want me to do? I can't like center it around you and your experience. Yeah. Look at all these other people that had a great time, but because you're a dick, now my reviews suffer because, you had to wait, in a long line, because a lot of people come here.
Yeah.
It's rough. Go ahead, Nick.
I'll super fast. I think like a little idea I had as far as like how perfect world, like if I could like kind of fix the review like process, is a lot more like the Better Business Bureau. As much as I've never been a big fan of like paying to be accredited and all that, like I'm not. The process of an A+ through F rating, and your rating is based on whether or not you screw over a customer or do something wrong. Mm-hmm. And the fact that when I leave or when I contact the Better Business Bureau and say this this business did not deliver what they promised they were going to deliver, or they stole money from me, or whatever complaint, the Better Business Bureau then goes and contacts you and said, okay, you got a chance to resolve this. And if you tell the Better Business Bureau, here's the email where I resolve this, the customer's just being a jerk and like wants to like defame me, they just ignore it and they like take it off.
Right.
Like you have a chance to like, whatever. Google's not going to do that. Facebook's not going to do that. But that whole process is, I have a lot more respect for it than I did once. Now that I understand it a little bit better, like you can leave reviews, but like they don't, if a bunch of people waited in a line 3 hours and they're giving you a bad review because they waited in line 3 hours, like that shouldn't be a review. That's not a review.
Yeah, I don't feel, because they're in line. They're not in the attraction. Yeah.
And we had somebody, we're being way more vocal moving forward about it, but we had somebody that just left a review on our Nightmare Combat video that was like, literally said, it wasn't too bad. It's just nothing like what's in this video, though. It's totally different. It's nothing like this. And I responded and I went, man, this is a point of view walkthrough of us following a real group through the haunted house. It's like, what was it in
The
it?
camera was attached to the laser tag gun,
The guy-
and it was like actually during the event. So
somebody's just talking shit.
We just,
We're like,
making
this is exactly
making
the
shit.
event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? So I don't know if they went somewhere else or they just maybe. I mean, listen, you never know. Like they could have gone through at a bad time, but for the laser tag, like the timing is so spread out that you can't really. There's no like breaks and everybody's like half gone because you need like
Right.
those key characters. So, but it was just. I think people are appreciating businesses that are standing up for themselves a lot more as long as you're actually standing up for yourself because you're like being treated poorly and
Yeah.
dishonestly. So
Yeah.
we're going to be a little more vocal with that, I'd like to say.
Hey, there you go.
It's not fair.
Speaking of Nightmare Combat, real quick. So you got your first weekend up and going. The tickets are on sale. Probably not a lot left. You're going to do another weekend, correct?
Mm-hmm. May 6th, 5th,
5th, 6th, and 7th.
yes,
May
the
6th and 7th?
first weekend of May.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, and that'll be, so those 2 weekends right now, last week of April, first weekend of May, Friday, your normal haunt night, 7 to midnight. Saturday and Sunday are 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., so a little bit earlier in the day.
Okay.
So,
Now, when do the tickets go on sale for your second weekend?
be sometime in the next like 7 days. So
Okay.
the way that these go is you have to sign up for early access. I'd say 95% of the events sell out before they go on sale to the public.
Right.
So if you want a chance to get tickets there, you've pretty much got to sign up for early access on the website. It's free. It's just you sign up, and then everybody that signed up for early access gets a text message on launch day. You get a little reminder the night before with like instructions how it all works, and then big launch, and everybody buys their tickets, and it's kind of fun. Like a little,
Same as haunt season. fearcolumbus.com. Is it time ticketed? Just like
you can go to fearcolumbus.com. It'll take, and then you can go to Nightmare Combat, but nightmarecombat.com is like
okay,
specifically for that event. Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, anytime, man. I'd love to get down there for your Nightmare. I'm probably going to do the same thing for the Nightmare Combat. Get some crew down and head down, check it out because I want to do it this time.
Yeah.
And of course, check out any other off-season events you guys do because you guys do a great job.
Thanks.
I mean, you're really kind of, I think one of the mainstays or maybe leaders in the industry when it comes to Ohio. It's a big haunt state. You guys are doing a great job, man. I mean, it's just, I'm glad you're back in the game and making a difference for
Yeah.
sure.
We're happy to be here for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Hell yeah. Well, again, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having us.
Let's do it again. It was great seeing you guys again, and we'll see you soon, all right?
Cool.
Cool.
All right, guys. Thank you,
See ya.
man.